When they're not climbing trees, they're making videos about trees. When they're not making videos about trees, they're competing in trees. When they're not doing that, they're fiddling with hardware. And when they're not fiddling with their hardware, they're milling wood. And when they're not milling wood, they're pulling wood out of their pants. By wood, I mean sawdust. And when they're not doing any of that, well, they're talking trees.
Okay, let's get rolling. Another podcast, and today I'm joined by two awesome fellas and good friends. First of all, we've got Marten Penrose, and I'm excited about this because one of the most excitable and passionate people when it comes to arb equipment I think I've ever met. So I want to hear some of that passion come through today. So I'm pretty stoked for that. And we've got Devine from Australia. Used to work with Tiger for a few years before we both took the leap to start our own businesses. So cheers for joining us, Tiger.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No worries, man. Two fantastic minds within the world of arboriculture.
Now I'm buzzing.
So I'm excited to see where this conversation takes us. So straight off the bat, what I want to open with is so Marten, your Instagram handle is at One-Armed Arb. Shout out to at One-Armed Arb, fantastic Instagram handle, Instagram page. So if you haven't seen it, then give Marten a follow because it's pretty hilarious. Some of the little animations and images you post online.
Is that your pocket vibrating, or are you just happy to see me? Like, I think...
Really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thanks. That's quite an introduction. Yeah, I am a one-armed arborist. I might be one of the only ones. I don't think there's too many of us about.
Yeah, I personally don't know of anyone else, but...
I know one.
God, there's always someone.
There's always someone taking the globe.
But different circumstances and certainly different character. So...
Yeah, it's an interesting career to do with one hand, I guess. To me, I've always had one hand, so it's not something that I've had to get used to. It's just we have to work out a different way to do things, and nobody wants to sit at home and do nothing, right?
Yeah, but so I remember one of the first times I met you, and we got chatting about it, and you were chatting about how you used to be like a pretty high level BMX rider. And
mountain biker.
Yeah. And then you were like, oh yeah, and then I started tree work, and I was like, man, to choose a career, if you've got one arm, doing arboriculture must be up there as being one of the hardest careers you can possibly do. Because something you said to me the other day, and I hadn't even, because I've seen you climb, and you just get out there and we're having fun and do wreck climbing, and you're splicing and all this crazy shit. Like nobody would ever think any different. But until you said to me the other day, we were talking about lanyards and work positioning, and you were like, and I was talking about how important I felt the use of a lanyard was in work positioning. And just I thought it was like an undervalued tool for like specific positioning, and people feel it sometimes it's a bit of a hindrance kind of thing. And you were like, oh yeah, but just think, when I'm in a work position, I use my lanyard because like I need to be able to kind of get back to a place because I've got the one arm, and because you don't have the strength to like hold on to one rope or to one side of the lanyard to then use the other arm to pull it up. And I was like, man, that just blew my mind when you said that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we were explaining then was getting back to the hitch, right? So if I'm stretching out to my right-hand side with my right hand, I can't tend my hitch. I can't do anything. I can't pull slack. Literally can't do anything. I'm stuck. Whereas I need to flip over to my right side so I can tend everything that way and stretch out this way. So it is about that work positioning. But the lanyard, I always say it's like another hand. I attach that thing to everything, to everywhere. I've cut things without a lanyard on, but 99% of the time I've got a lanyard on just because it keeps me somewhere. I
Yeah.
don't have a hand to hold onto a stick to go and do something else. I can't move around like you guys can. I certainly can't pull myself back in a little bit. So work positioning to me is something that is just always there. It's super important. Whereas to you guys, you're like little spider monkeys with all your arms. You can do all sorts of things and grab onto stuff. Eh?
So you know the sorry to interrupt, but you know what's the wrestling, the Brazilian wrestling? Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It's like every time I see Marten climb a tree, and for those that are watching or listening, Marten works half the time for me. And every time I see him climb a tree, it's a lot of leg use, and positioning is really interesting to watch. But it just shows that how some of us might not be capitalizing 100%, especially if you're not using a work positioning system like a lanyard. Like it's another hand, it's another arm.
I'm sure it's super interesting to watch me climb. I hate looking at myself climb.
Everybody hates looking at
I hate
themselves
watching
climb.
myself climb. I hate looking at pictures of me climb because everything just looks wrong. Just the way that I'll hook onto something with an elbow as opposed to like a hand. It just looks wrong, you know, or I'm hooking with a foot.
Yeah.
Everybody
you're in
hates
that
looking
position,
at
you're
footage
like,
of.
I think,
yeah.
is it because in your mind and through your eyes, it feels like it looks different to when you actually watch it back and you're like, oh my God, that looks so clunky compared to what I felt like it was like way smoother than that.
Okay,
so
here's the first name drop I'll do this evening. There'll be a couple of name drops. So, like midway through my competition climbing career, I met Isaac Rees, or fondly known as Old Man River from Bartlett Tree Experts. And he's done, I don't know, like 500 tree climbing competitions or something. And and
He probably invented the tree.
yeah, somewhere in there, the original jamboree, there was Isaac Rees. So anyway, I was saying to him, like, I always feel absolutely ragged, you know, like, because I'm just rushing everywhere. And he said to me something that I'll never forget. He's like, you got to remember that everybody is going to be seeing something different than what you are. And it's always really stuck with me because it's like all you can do is concentrate on where everything is going and trying to be as fast as possible and autopiloting, right? Everybody's going to see something different. Like one of the biggest comments from people about Isaac Rees climbs is that they're very fluid and they're very smooth and everything. But he always comes out of the tree and says, that's shit. And like, dude, that looked absolutely amazing. Everyone is always their worst critic, especially when you're under a timed and like evaluated system like that. And I hate watching footage of myself climb. It's like, oh God. Like the photo that Joel took of me, the entry media one, it's like, God, I look like a fat ballerina.
I thought that was a wicked picture.
See, it's like, you know, it's through the eyes of everybody else. You're your own worst critic, right? But I was like, God, I look like I'm just reaching for a cupcake.
Yeah, for sure, eh?
Yeah. I think you and to keep the ball rolling on that, I think you look great in a tree. And I really enjoy watching you climb. And I think to play on what Dan's saying as well is it's very interesting because it's different, you know, and it's no less effective. I think you're a phenomenal tree climber, and I think that lots of people of all different walks of life could actually take a leaf out of your book and actually concentrate, focus energy, do things safely, do things properly, and there are no excuses.
Yeah,
I mean, that's kind to say, but I am definitely not the person to be saying you should do this properly and safely. Shit, I haven't two-handed a chainsaw in 10 years. There's loads of things that I will do differently that maybe isn't the safest way, you know, just because you've got one hand, you're not holding on to something properly, you haven't got grip on something, you know, there's something totally wrong about that situation. It's definitely not the safest.
The question to you, though,
but it's something that I've always practiced because nobody's taught me how to do what I do.
You have to adapt because you can't do it the same as...
No. And there's no education system to say, hey, this is how you do that with one hand.
Yeah.
And somebody will always tell you how to do something and then go,
What was the story that you told me about?
How I lost my arm. An alligator.
You was it really? You told me that you were doing one of the tests, MPTC or something, and you. What's the story?
So while I was at college doing my chainsaw license, not ticket, I hadn't said anything about having one arm to my chainsaw teacher, and he's explaining exactly what to do and all the rest of it, and I was like, I can't do that, and he's like, well, why not? I was like, I've got one arm, and he said to me, because I'm quite jovial with it all, he said to me, well, what happened? I said, lost it in a chainsaw accident. Complete straight face. This guy turns around to me with a even straighter face and went, you'll learn properly this time. And just carried on with the class. Didn't say another word about it. Just carried on. Oh, that shut me down. Oh, nobody's ever done that before. But yeah, as it goes, he was an amazing guy. He taught me well.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But you're always going to get them, aren't you? A one-handed guy in the tree industry, you always go to the worst.
Yeah.
He definitely cut his own arm.
Oh, yeah.
He
for
definitely put it in the chipper.
Sure. Yeah.
Bite my fingernails, got carried away. Yeah. Work out all of them funny stories.
And then on from that is that you now become, within like the last year, maybe year and a half, you took up a splicing course, the Fids and Fibers course, and now you've pretty much become obsessed with splicing. I would quite easily say.
I think it's a pretty
Say
accurate
obsessed.
description. Yeah.
And if I know that you can splice tiger, but
it's like comparing space, like aeronautical space engineers to people that make paper airplanes. It's two different realms. I understand the concept of splicing.
you being the paper airplane.
Yeah, just a clarification. I'm the paper airplane guy. Yeah.
I very much landed on my feet with splicing, though. It just fell into place for me. Becoming friends with Mark P, who just took me under his wing, taught me everything I needed. But my wife, Michelle, works through the nights, and my kids are grown up and do their own thing. So I've got all the time in the world in the evenings to do anything to myself. And then I found a brake test machine not too far, or a guy that does brake testing not too far from me. There's ropes all around the place. So everything was there just to get on and get doing. I've got all evening. I don't watch TV. Haven't had a TV in like 16 years. So when I'm sat at home at night, I've got all sorts of other things to do. And rope just took over. So when I can sit there and just splice rope because there's nobody else in the house to talk to or whatever to do, and then go and break it the next day, you just learn so much quicker. Everything happens so much faster. And then as soon as you've got 100 splices under your belt, and you're like, man, I've got the muscle memory, and you've nailed it every time. You're like, man, this is amazing. I love it. It's like playing computer games but with rope. And then you just want to progress, don't you? So I really went into doing used rope. That was a big thing for me when I started, because I knew that I wanted to be a splicer. And nobody gives you a brand new rope and says, can you put a nice eye in that? It's all like this dirty old dog.
I've got an old this, that, and the other.
I cut this rope 5 years ago. Can you fix it? I knew that was coming. So
or probably most people say, oh, it's pretty new. I've used it a couple of times.
Yeah, once or twice, not many times. Yeah,
I pulled
absolutely.
the truck out of a bog with it.
It looks like the dog's chewed it.
Yeah.
But I knew that was coming, so I just probably focused on used rope and over and over and over again. And then when you have a go at nice new rope after used rope, you're like, holy shit, that falls together with no effort whatsoever.
Yeah.
And if you've got a passion for something, anything's easy, right?
Yeah.
Like the splicing, because I had a passion for it, I knew I wanted to do it. I just did it and did it and did it. And man, still doing it. Love it.
Yeah. And you're like, so I think I get the feeling that most people that kind of decide they want to get into splicing, or that think, that would be a really cool thing to do, is because they think of all the little gadgets and tools that they can make for themselves. And, I'd make this little prusik with the rings on. I'd make the pulley saver. I'd make the, anything that you can think of. That's what everybody thinks. That's why they would like to splice. But then if you're like me, you try splicing once, as taught by you for an evening, and then think, oh yeah, this is wicked. Go home, try and do it unassisted, realize it's way harder than you imagined, and it's going to take so much time out of your life that maybe I just pay for you to do it instead.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's time.
And I think the majority of people probably go down that same route. Like, I'd say, like 10% of people that actually decide to try and learn to splice follow through with it and end up. Like,
you reckon 10%?
Well, maybe not even that.
I don't even know if that's even close. It's funny because like what you're basically saying there, like mirrored my exact experience. So, it was early on in the game. Taking you back a few years here. It was 1994. No, it wasn't quite that long ago. So it was when the second gen ART rope guide came out, I believe. And in Europe, like it was a buzz with people making homemade rope. What are they called?
Friction savers.
Guide.
Rope guides.
Yeah.
Thank you. Polysaver, rope guides, whatever. So anyway, it was the latest thing for my buddy Matt and I, and we were the lead climbers of a company down in Oz. Shout out to Sydney Arbor Trees, good people. And we both wanted to make one, and in Australia at that time there wasn't a great amount of like gear distributorship down there. So we kind of had to be a little bit thrifty. The prices were pretty heavy. And Michael Perry had done some splicing and had some of his stuff tested, and was taught by a couple of other people that were well respected. So he took us under his arm and showed us a couple of times. And busy man like I am now, and now I really actually understand, Mike, like why you had no time. Running a business with kids and a wife, and yeah, it's definitely hard. And I thank you very much for spending the time with me, and showed me and like walked me through building a rope guide. Still had no concept of how to splice after that, and it was only because the relationship that I was in at the time was deteriorating massively that I just like had all this extra time on my hands and didn't realize. So I was just like, okay, sweet, like I'll build this. I, in the midst of it all, I broke both my heels. Deciding that I was going to jump off a building and land on all my friends who had decided to have a cigarette halfway through where they were. So that's where I struck up a serious friendship with Bristow, Drew Bristow. So how many name drops is that now?
Pull that microphone a bit closer towards you.
And Drew walked me through a lot of splices and everything. So I would say that my experience level would have waned significantly if I actually had
a girlfriend.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Splicing's like a language, though, isn't it? Yeah. It's something you've got to keep doing. If you don't keep doing it, you're going to forget it.
A classic example of that as well. Like I wouldn't attempt to do a life-rated splice without Marten now. Wouldn't attempt to do it. So, I understand the instructions. There is some muscle memory there. I have done quite a few double braids class 1 and 2 and 16 strands and brummels and all sorts, but I wouldn't be confident that they would pass unless Marten was overseeing. Or I could just say, "Hey, Marten,
here's that rope again.
Here's that again.
Remember that rope that you spliced last week that I cut?
Yeah, again and again."
But it's an addictive thing. You don't want to get back into it. You don't want to crack on some more?
For me, there's not enough time in the world to learn. Like I can't find enough time to do all the things that I want to do as it is. So and I know splicing is a huge time commitment. So I'd probably end up getting a divorce if I learned to splice, because the missus would not be having it.
Yeah, isn't it? That's
She'd be like, "What's all this rope all over the floor?" And,
yeah. Into my house now, it's like a squirrel's nest. There's just fibres everywhere. They never come out the carpet properly, do they?
Yeah.
But moving on from there, I just mentioned while we're talking splicing, I also work for a company called New Green, newgreenstore.com. They have a computer cycled bar tacking sewing machine. So as well as hand splicing all these ropes, I can now sew them. Which is quite an interesting journey.
Which is extremely exciting, especially for someone like you who's so into like
anything.
Just making up things that you don't even know what they're going to be used for, but you want to make them because they look cool and you think there'll be a use for it. Somebody will find a way to use it. And
hey, I've made a few things that I just post them out online or hand them to people and they go, what is it? You
and you say, yeah,
go and play with it. Come back in a month and tell me what you can do with it.
You certainly weren't in love with it to begin with. You're like, oh, this is rubbish. I bet that my splicers can meet breaking strain way better than this machine.
Mate,
the robots, they're taking over.
The machine's made by a company called Juki. So it got code name Junkie.
Juki, oh yeah, they make like every commercial sewing machine going, don't they?
Oh, for sure. To start with, I just wasn't into it, and I was like, oh, it's trying to tame my job and whatever else. And I was like, well, this is kind of cool, I suppose. And then we put it in brake tests. I was like, right, once my splicers show that this machine is junk, and then all the brake tests started coming back pretty good. Yeah. Ah, shit. Shit. But once you got past making an eye, just a big, bulky sewn eye, and you start to make all sorts of other things, like, actually, this thing's super cool. And then I'd spend hours and hours and hours in front of it. Because obviously, I'm not a seamstress. I don't know how sewing machines work or anything else. So that's something that me and Will, the guy that owns the shop, the boss, had to loosely work out how to do. Another feather in the cap there. But once you start to make stuff and work out how that machine works, man, that thing's amazing. It's so good. It almost makes you want to give up climbing trees so I can just stay in the dry and make cool shit all day long. But yeah, super cool machine. Super cool.
Have you made anything that you've like given out or posted online that you didn't really know what the purpose was going to be, or you hadn't thought of how many purposes it would be, and has somebody come back with you with a mind-blowing use for something, or not? Has that not quite happened?
Loosely mind-blowing, no, not yet. It'd take quite a lot to blow my mind with gear that I've made, I guess. But I've definitely made stuff and just handed them out. I started, I don't know, is it right to say, I pretty much found all the cool shit that other people made and then I ripped it off. So pretty much everything that Teffelberger have ever made that's cool, I ripped it off and made my own version. And then ART have the snake anchor, the snake tail. That's a super cool thing. Really cool. I really like how it works. So I started making that, but I started putting different things on the end. So it was like a big ring or a thimble or a pulley or whatever. So I made a few different versions of them. I handed them out to a few friends. Was like, just go crazy. Doesn't matter what you do. Just if it's life support, then it's for climbing. If you're going to rig off it, then rig off it. But tell me, and then just leave it as that. So they all climbed on different versions. This is. So I handed them out to these guys and then took them back off them, swapped them around and given them back out to the same people, but just a different version. And then we come up with what's now called the pintail. So it's a pintail on the end of effectively an ultra sleeve. So it's a snake anchor, an art snake anchor. It's not, but it's got a pintail on the end. And that seemed to be the killer tool. So they worked out the exact length for it and whatnot. So now I'm making them. But that was given out without a kind of, this is its use. It was given out as a find its use. Yeah. And then when you start clipping other things into it, like quickies and revolvers and whatever else, you start bending it around and making it into multi-stem anchors and all sorts. Man, that's super cool. Super cool. But you've got to be a gear junkie.
Yeah.
You try and explain any of this to somebody that's like, I climb trees. All right, Blake's hitch. You're just not going to get it. I've already seen this just go.
So how many minutes are we in, and you're already talking about Blake's hitch?
Hang on. This actually is unintentional on Martin's part, but this leads into something I just wanted to touch on, and I wanted to see what your opinion.
Are you pointing at me now? Okay.
I wanted to see what your opinion on this is. So, Martin and I were talking. I don't know when we first spoke about this, but a few weeks ago, and then it came back up again when you were around the other night with Emmy and Aidan, and Martin. Well, I feel like everybody should know how to tie a Blake's hitch, and because like Martin had like some knots on a like some pictures of knots, and he was like getting people at a conference to like a game to like see who can tie what knot, like by calling the knot out and whatever. And it seemed like nobody could remember how to tie a Blake hitch, or it was taking the brain a little bit of time to catch up and then get into gear, and then finally they remembered how to tie a Blake hitch. And I was like, man, this is a knot that any arborist, any climber should know how to climb, just to get you out of situations. And then Martin's argument. Well, I'll let Martin tell his argument, and then I want to hear where you stand on this. And
this is such a dangerous place to go because I'm going to get quite jerky at this. I bloody hate
just
the
watch
Blake
how much you it's a little creaky.
So,
it'll pick up on the microphone.
Just as a precursor to that, I'm going to take a washroom break. I already
know
thoroughly
what's gonna
know what he's going to say, so I can walk back in and answer this pretty well. So, excuse me one second.
Okay, so the Blake hitch. I hate the Blake hitch with a passion. I think it's historical, and I don't think we need it anymore. I don't think it should be taught to new climbers. I don't think a new climber should be forced to struggle away through the tree just to get up into it. We should take that away completely. That shouldn't be your first learning experience in the tree. Your first experience shouldn't even be about how hard things are. It should be getting into the tree and moving about and seeing how wonderful the 3D playground is. As a rescue option, I think the Blake's hitch is just ridiculous because you don't climb on it. You don't tie that hitch. You don't do anything like that. Most people nowadays are going to get onto some sort of hitch climber pulley and they're going to tie a VT or a distal or whatever. The rescue in that situation, when you get to the situation that you go, shit, I just fucked up and now I need a Blake's hitch, you're never going to remember how to tie that. In modern day ropes, you are not going to tie a Blake's hitch on my ecstatic rope or any static SRT rope. It's not going to happen. They're just not going to grip. So I think the Blake's hitch should be somewhat killed off as a teaching tool. I don't think it should be given to anybody until, like, I don't know, 12 weeks into learning to climb, and then be like, hey, look, there's this thing that they used to do. I'll show you how to do it. You won't remember it. You don't need to know it. Forget it. So I banged that drum for a little while, trying to explain to people that in the situation, you're not going to remember it. Therefore, it's going to be more dangerous than something else. The only reason that you'd need a Blake's hitch is because you've destroyed your prusik. Take another prusik with you. If you really want to keep a hold of this Blake's hitch thing and teach people, what we should do is we should teach people how to tie the Miakan. It's the exact same knot. Instead of going up through one loop, you go through two and then back down with two eyes, right? Teach them how to do that, and that'll double teach. That'll tell you how to do the Blakes if you really needed it. But otherwise, it'll teach you how to use your hitch properly. Why are you cutting through your hitch? Whoever cuts through the hitch? Yeah. When I have this conversation, it's always somebody that goes, yeah, but there was this one time that I really needed the Blakes. And you go, that's one time, dude. You've been climbing for 15 years. Yeah. Let's stop teaching this knot that nobody's going to remember and somebody's going to hurt themselves with. I don't think it has a place anymore. I think it's gone and done and dusted. So on that, I've been banging this drum for a little while. What I've come to realize is that not everybody is on the same level. Not everybody has a tree shop where they can go and buy a pulley and a hitch. Some people don't even have the education to go past the fact that, there's more to climbing trees than just one rope. But at the same time, I absolutely loved watching DJ pull out a rope and turn it into a full harness and a climbing system and everything, all in one rope. That's amazing. Uncomfortable. That's amazing. And it doesn't work. Go and climbing it. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that sucks. But the Blakes, man, we got to kill the Blakes off. Let's get rid of it. We don't need it. We just don't need it. There's so much technology. There's so much movement forwards. We don't need to be moving backwards. Yeah. History is about books. It's not about doing it today. We learn from history. That's why we learned that the Blakes were shit. And we don't need it.
So I can't, since we had this conversation, I kind of thought about it more, and you do argue a really good point, and you put across a really good point about why schools and training people maybe should kind of just move on now, as the industry's moved on. Maybe the baseline of what is taught nowadays should move on with the evolution of the industry. And I probably the biggest point that I agree with that I hadn't really thought about before is I remember when I first learned to climb at college, they set up the system and said, right, go up, and there was London Plane Tree we were climbing, and they kind of taught you how to set up the system and then showed you how to like body thrust up. And obviously anybody that's ever climbed on like a prusik loop or a Blake's or anything knows that body thrusting is hard work. And when you said that we should teach people straight off the bat like a really easy way of climbing, maybe using, I don't know if you would go as far as using mechanicals like the zigzag at first, because that's a little bit.
Whenever I teach,
two arguments, though. I think.
Yeah.
whenever I teach anybody to climb, and I go out and wreck climbs, and I teach people all the time, I always have a pulley saver in the tree, so they're climbing from a pulley as opposed to rings, because there's no friction, and a zigzag and a foot ascender. Yeah. Because then you climb in a tree, you learn to move, you learn to do things.
And then it's more about the experience rather than
falling out of the tree.
Yeah. Like, so when I take Jo, my wife, we've climbed together. I think I've taken her like 4 times now, and every time I've set up like a.
Sorry, Megan.
And every time I've set up like an SRT system, rope wrench, rope walker system, because I know for somebody who doesn't have the upper body strength and can't pull themselves up in like. Because the body thrust technique is so much about technique to actually make it like slightly easy for yourself. So to get somebody like my wife Jo and get her just like see her just walking up the rope on like the first time I set it up for her, I'm like, man, this is a no-brainer. This is how especially for people that aren't getting into the industry but are just out for for a good tree climb and to experience what it's like, that made sense for me. And then when you said about, teaching people and wanting people to experience this, but also like get people interested in it as an industry, so make it easy for them. And then later slowly introduce like these other systems. Like I always say the Blake's hitch, but the reason why I was saying the Blake's hitch is because it's the most common one that people know to tie a closed system with. But I always was taught the taut line, so I never found on the Blake's hitch. It was always I never climbed on the taut line, but I knew it to tie.
Really,
climb
you were taught on a taut line?
I knew it to tie a closed system with. That was the only reason I was shown. I
hung my washing line up with the taut line, and I went, perfect. That's what that's for.
That's what it's invented for.
Is it the taut lines like looks kind of like a prusik, but it just goes back through the opposite way.
So it's like a single leg distal, basically.
Maybe it wasn't the taut line. It was like a prusik, but tying it so that
it's not
rather than with a loop, you could tie it with like
continuous.
Do you remember these systems that we need to know so we can save our lives? So you've just forgotten, you've just died.
I just proved the point there. But anyway, sorry, what's your thought on the whole process?
So, let's backpedal a little bit here. So, I think that there's like a whole bunch of points to be made in this particular argument right now.
I don't think there is, mate. I think the only point is kill the Blakes. That's it. We're done.
Marten Penrose. Number one.
We should get T-shirts made. Kill the Blakes.
Oh, you.
Oh, why would you say that out loud?
There may or may not be. Anyway.
Oh no! I've just unearthed something. Oh, right. Carry on.
Anyway, so it's actually worked out perfectly because I'm 100% middle ground to both of you. Number one, I think it's really important from my perspective to teach climbing history, and that was like further ingrained by Mark Bridge. He did an amazing talk on the history of tree climbing that was both informative, really interesting, and super educational. And he talked about ninjas, like legit ninjas, that were used to, assassinate the members of the royal family in Japan. And then at the time of the change of the dynasty and whatever century or whatever, they had no one to kill anymore, right? So they used their ninjutsu skills to climb and prune trees in royal gardens and things. And there's this amazing tapestry that he showed in one of his slides. If you ever get a chance, go and see Mark Bridge. He is like freaking mind-boggling. Not only is he an incredible arborist that speaks like I don't know how many languages, he's a brilliant illustrator and author and a punk rocker from way back. He's a hugely incredible man, one of my idols of all time. Anyway, he showed us this incredible slide of ninjas climbing a tree with Mount Fuji in the background. And the significance of this is it's the first recording of people using a DDRT or an MRS system. So it's a closed system, i.e. the terminal end attaches and then there is a split tail. And it's not a split tail, sorry. It's all part of one system that's fully closed. So you have to untie everything to open it, to pass it to the next branch and so on and so on. And it's 3-strand, what appears to be a natural fiber. So anyway, and this is to a talk of a lot of arborists of tenure, like been in the industry a long time, lots of different backgrounds, lots of different countries, and he's got them all enthralled, right? And talking about basic sort of setups from all different countries and everything. And part of traveling, like I've noticed that what arborists in Australia learn from the get-go, what arborists in England learn from the get-go, Canada, the States, etc., is all very different. In Australia, like our system is very much mirrored to the English system, which is a 3-coil English prusik, right, and is not a Blake's hitch. And my main argument for the Blake's hitch is what happens when you tie a Blake's hitch incorrectly. What is the nickname for the Blake's hitch tied incorrectly?
It's like a
sewer
slide, isn't it?
It's a sewer slide. So if you had a technique that was like crucial for doing your work in any other facet in tree care, like take a notch, pie cut, scarf, whatever you want to call it, just say it was so easy to screw that up, which I mean, it kind of is, but like even more so, that you could potentially cause catastrophic effect at any given time. Like I think it's important to teach it as a part of history, but 9 times out of 10, you ask anybody to tie a Blake's hitch, unless they're a Blake's hitch tree climber, they don't know how to tie it, myself included. So that should be the immediate stop right there. I think it's an important part of the history because that's how a lot of people climbed and still do climb in certain areas and were taught to climb, just like the taut line. Try and, you know, we get a piece of rope here between the 3 of us right now, and we try and mimic a couple of these knots right now, and I bet you at least one of us screws up.
I bet you one of us do too.
So, like, I think it's really important that history is something that we pay respect to and we learn from our mistakes. But I think that through training and through like firsthand screwing with people's minds and like molding and being right up close with people, it's a mistake to skip steps. You can definitely introduce simultaneously, but you have to give them the whole story first. So I agree, and this is where the argument comes from, is single rope technique or SRS actually predates MRS. Single line has been around for far longer and has been used in far more disciplines than what MRS has. Yeah. So the argument at this point is like, in terms of history, which angle do you actually go? So I think it's important in terms of arboriculture to stick to what we know. And then if someone is clearly struggling, someone who has less strength or has some other inability, and like, I mean, hip thrusting, I mean, it's not hard to find an inability with hip thrusting. It's hard. Yeah.
I mean, we have so many toys on the market nowadays that doesn't need to happen.
See, that's
just doesn't need. A foot ascender is enough to say, I don't need to do that ever again.
But again, you bring it back. Sorry, and I'll make this one point, and then I realize I'm waffling. But
No.
Better's walked into his first international tree climbing victory with next to nothing on his harness. Like it's about the climber, and it's about the mind, it's about the plan, it's about the route, it's about the execution. If you add the flavor and you add all the shinies and everything, sure enough, if you know how to use them, you can like really enhance your game. But otherwise, it's just a boat anchor.
Is that right? Or is that an old man talking?
No,
because the toys nowadays.
No, I think Tiger's point there that's it's like you take like any let's say like a professional athlete, like they have to have so much skill to become professional in the first place to get to a level, but by the time we as like Joe Bloggs sees them as a professional athlete, they've probably got whatever sport you're talking about, they're at the highest level. So then they're tweaking like diet and nutrition, they're tweaking like like they have like movement coaches and all this kind of stuff that
doping.
Nobody'd ever heard of. What did you say?
Blood doping.
Yeah, blood doping, exactly. But they're doing all these things to like just get that tiny little edge. But they have to have so much technique and skill of that particular thing, whatever, like sport, whatever they were taking part in. It's the same with tree climbing. Like, so back to Tiger's point about Bettis, like if you're just like a really good, natural, smooth tree climber that has lots of skill, has the kind of the right mindset about how to plan a climb and how to execute what you want to do, and have the skill to like use the throw line to get it where you want, and like all those different skills put all together, it doesn't matter if you've got all this fancy stuff. But then, as I'm sure Bettis would then got on the competition circuit and saw people using different bits of equipment, he started thinking, oh, well, I could use that to do that, and that'd be cool, and maybe I could get some extra points for that, and actually this would help me access further out on a limb because it makes it easier, or like, who knows what we're talking about, but it, like, these things enhance somebody's game, like incrementally, like depending on like the gear that they're introducing, but they have to have that base level of awesome skill in the first place to get.
That's not. So I didn't mean to be exclusionary, because there's many people that don't have nearly, and I don't want to sound further exclusionary, but the skill of Bettis, right? Like, I think he's a very, very naturally gifted tree climber that is maybe more naturally gifted than a lot of people. My mere point was that he is able to do so much with so little, right? And I think that as soon as you tap into who you know, like when you know who you are and what your strengths and what your weaknesses are, and like I think Marten is a perfect example of this. Like what Marten does with what he has is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And like we constantly have these debates and these sort of like rallies backwards and forwards where it's like, well, it's not for me. It's not for me. And like I actually have no argument, because like what works for me definitely doesn't work for him, right? Yeah. Or vice versa, right? And it's an extreme point of where you need to know when enough is enough. Like we all know the climbers that have everything strung from their harness, and I'm trying to like differentiate between those guys and the guys with nothing on their harness. There is a medium ground where you need to have enough knowledge to know what you're doing, and then you need to know enough about yourself and your capabilities and what can enhance without like overcomplicating everything.
But when we talk about this minimal system guy that climbs a tree with next to nothing, he's an anomaly. He's at the end of the scale. The majority of the tree people are right in this middle scale. And if you throw all these easy things at them, a zigzag, a friction saver, a foot ascender, a knee ascender, or whatever, a hand ascender, it doesn't matter what it is,
Okay,
any of these toys.
So what are we classifying those people?
Who?
The people with the friction saver and the
Normal.
okay.
They're the people right in the
We're
middle.
like
They're the people that they could use this. They don't need to have it all, but they could use it because it's going to make them easier.
Okay.
They're not an anomaly. That is the average person, the average me, the average you, whoever. Well, not you two. You two are special. But the average tree climber
Kidding me?
is.
It's my like goal to use as little in a tree as possible because it's too heavy because I'm getting old.
But the middle ground where most of us hang out is the guys that could use all these little things. There isn't such thing as a tree climber that is just perfectly built, right? We're all broken somehow.
Yeah.
You know, we all need a little tool. To say, I'm going to do it with as little gear as possible, who are you impressing? Like, nobody. You know, to be the guy that says, I've got everything. You know, well, wicked. At some point, it doesn't need to be this week, this month, this year, whatever. You're going to be like, shit, I don't need that thing, so I'm going to stop carrying it. You're going to work out, you know, that's hung on my harness for how long? Off you go. Yeah, and you work your way out. I have no problem with somebody taking the kitchen sink up the tree with them.
Okay,
because they're going to work it out.
Okay,
somehow.
well let's put it
part of the
let's put it
learning
to the
process,
masses.
right?
Let's put it to the masses. How much is too much? We want to hear climbingarborist.com. We want to hear on the blog. We want to see like what's bare minimum, what's too much, what's like just the right amount.
But we're all different fish, though, right?
Well, let's hear about it. Let's see
the
what
way
people
that
say.
I climb.
See what people
I
say.
need all sorts of toys because that makes me forget that I'm doing a job. You know, all of a sudden I'm in a playground in the tree and I've got
talked to
shiny
me about
shit
your
all over the
magpie.
place and it's amazing. You know, if you look good and you feel good, everything's going well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you're getting up there and you're slogging it out and you're like, man, I'm just doing my 95. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
dude, you're killing yourself.
I know what you mean about that because I don't know if you saw my post a couple of days ago, but I rediscovered the cinch in the bottom of my bag the other day, and I was like, oh, I'll give this another bash because I remember how like smooth it was for, you know, like tightening up, and you know it's nice and easy. So I was like, and I had like a lanyard that it was perfect for it, and I was like, oh, I'll just get this out of the bag because, and like you say, it's, you know, having gear and trying new things, it just kind of makes the job more enjoyable because you're like I'd kind of refound that. I've had it for like 3 years, but I haven't used it for like 2 years. So I kind of refound it.
How many have you got?
And it's like brand new.
Dude.
But actually what I remember from using it before was I went back to the hitch because I found releasing it under load was just that was the one thing that annoyed me about it. It was like
We were taking the piss yesterday with DJ. Because I was in the tree, it's like, oh, look at this, it releases.
I was like, yeah, that's why I stopped using it because like I was trying to release it just with my thumb, but if it's under load, you can't do that because there's too much pressure on it.
Mate, I wish you told me a couple of years ago. I'm on to my 5th one. And like now I'm like begging people again, if you have a cinch and you don't use it, please give it to me. I'll buy it off you, whatever you want. I love it.
I'm sure there's some still around on the internet somewhere you can get them. Like
there's a couple that are
some probably haven't sold. Some company will have some that haven't sold them somewhere.
Not
sure.
It's not really a whole bunch, and there's a couple of devices that are similar. But that cinch is dynamite.
Yeah,
it's freaking dynamite. I love it.
Could you flip it around and climb on it?
Yeah, I have done a couple of times.
Yeah.
It's a belay device for rock climbing, so
Okay.
yeah.
I'm glad you discovered it because it will change your world.
Well, yeah, and then this guy just sent me a video showing me of him releasing it under load, the opposite way to what I was trying to do it, and I was like, oh, that's easy.
Makes me look like an idiot.
Well, now I'll be using this from now on.
and to touch base on that as well, it's like how many of us like get the shinies, and like that is a huge component of climbing because like if you get into autopilot mode, you're pruning the same size tree for the same reasons or whatever over and over again. You're like 8, 9, 10, 15, whatever years in the industry. Sometimes you need to get that sort of like, you know, oomph to get going.
To spark your kind of interest.
Shinies can be good, but the big thing about shinies is you got to read the MFGs. You really do. You got to read them. Like those pieces of paper that they're wrapped up in aren't to keep them like protected. They're to protect you once you open the package. You read them and it says step 1, step 2, step 3. Do not use like this. Do not use like that. And
I think that's how we all read them, isn't it? You just go straight to the page and go, that's not what to do. I can make it work.
Or straight to the pictures, which is a really interesting conversation that I was in recently, where all MFGs should be picture format only.
That's interesting.
That's a good argument.
If you get a cartoon there that's like got
but it would have to be like an idiot's kind of guide cartoon, because
that's what they
people
are.
because people can even look at a cartoon and be like, turn it upside down and be like, oh, is that what it means, or is that what it means? Like, it would have to be so simple,
the big
wouldn't
cross through it.
Yeah. But like, it's true, because all those pages of tiny little black text that just looks boring. And then you see the one picture and you're like, oh, well, that's got a tick in it and that one's got a cross, so I'll do this one. Like, that's probably why a lot of people flip to the picture part of it and then just toss it away, because unless you're really anal about a bit of gear, and unless you're not familiar with a bit of gear and you feel like, this is life support, so, like, the majority of people aren't going to read all that tiny little black text.
And that's the argument, especially people in arboriculture. Like there's a reason that people have been attracted into this industry, and it's typically people that can't sit still. It's people that want to be outside, people that want to be submersed in nature, people that want to experience things, people want to have like a bit of an adrenaline rush, at the same time feel accomplished, look at something that's beautiful and their finished product, right? Run chainsaws, work out, like do all that sort of good stuff, and typically are those people the type that are going to sit down and read novels back to back to back to back? There is a small group of people that will do that, but typically speaking, on a larger scale, where people that are hands-on, where people that are, and correct me, what's the term for someone that learns visually, a visual learner? So we need to like feel, touch, smell, see what's going on, rather than sit there, boring. Oh, okay, sweet, okay, that makes sense. Boring.
Having read most of the instruction manuals for gear,
most of them.
What I can tell you is, although they're 99 pages long, there's only 3 pages that are in English.
Yeah.
And there's only half a page of that you need to know, because the rest of it just says, don't get dirty, don't put it in the microwave, don't lick it. The rest of it, the bit that you really need is like 3 lines long. The instruction manuals are massive because they've got so many other languages.
So many languages.
That's kind of it, but it's off-putting, isn't it? Because you pick it out and you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I can work this out. But isn't that a tree guy thing? We work everything out. If it doesn't work the first time, more duct tape.
Well, and that's the sort of push to move away from like it's stamped. It's got a 24 kN rating on it. So I can do whatever I like. I can jump off a freaking building if I want with it in this configuration because it has that marking on it. And that's, I think, something that people need to sort of refresh their memories and move back. And if one way of doing that is to create a little comic strip, even if you have to make it funny, even if you have to sort of, entice people to read it, or because at the end of the day, it is a user agreement. If you don't read that and you don't understand how to use that piece of equipment, and you hurt yourself or die using the piece of equipment in that incorrect way, you will not be covered, because that is the agreement right there. And that's the real deal right there. So I think it's important that people do it, but I think there's got to be a way to reach our people, instead of boring.
There is definitely a lot more learning to do on that. But that's because we're wasting so much time learning the Blake's hitch instead of how a zigzag works properly.
Yeah, again, and to touch base on this and to sort of put a nail in the coffin on that one. So I agree with Dan that it's important that we tell people where we come from and how to do everything. But I think it's so easy to not tie that correctly that I think it should be removed from the curriculum in terms of climbing on it. But I think we should be taught what it is and maybe shown how to tie it one time and like recognize it when you see it. But I don't think we should be putting people in trees on it. Closed, and the other argument is a taut line, is a helicoil, is a Blake's hitch actually a closed system because it's a single leg. Like if you have a fully closed system, it has two legs. Like if you have a distal hitch, for instance, right?
I think you're getting just too lost in history now. We don't even need to know how many legs it is. Right. It's dead. It's dead. I killed it. There, it's gone.
So moving on from that, do you think, like, how long is it going to be before schools and colleges that teach arboriculture are going to actually decide to drop that kind of stuff? I mean, it's been 17 years since I was at college for it, so they might have dropped it already, but I imagine they're still teaching from the very, very, very beginning. And so I think it does make sense for if you go into college to learn arboriculture, or if you go into a climbing course and it's like we're teaching you the basics of climbing, should they just start off with like teaching like a distal or a VT and using a micro pulley for helping you tend, and like should that be like the starting point now, or do you
can I fill this one?
Yeah.
So I'm an assistant trainer with Arboriculture Canada, and the way that we are teaching currently is to move into more advanced hitches straight away. So we're moving from talking about basic hitches into something that might be what you call a little bit more of a reliable hitch and less sort of slippery, like a distal or a sway hitch, for instance, but still functional with a hitch climber pulley in that sort of setup, right? So as far as, I can't speak for the organization, but in terms of the trainers that I've worked closely with and the conversations that we've had, we believe that that's a really good starting point for students because it also has the ability to adapt straight to SRS and is something that is going to bind every time, whereas maybe a VT is not necessarily depending on your setup and et cetera, because there are many different variations of the VT. There is the classic blah, 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 blah. So that is currently what Arboriculture Canada is teaching, is the history and then into something useful like that.
Let's say a VT, a distal, a Meerkan. Them three hitches should be taught across the board because they'll job, just like you said, between SRT, DRT. It's also what you're going to run on your lanyard. Therefore, it's going to be a muscle memory tying that hitch over and over and over again for your lanyard and for your climbing system. That way, both systems work exactly the same and you've got a basis to keep on going from, right? That's your muscle memory built.
Yeah.
I think that's where it should be started.
Yeah.
Everything before is before and it's gone, it's done. And the thing about cars nowadays, we get in a car, you press the button, and everything does everything because we're fucking idiots. You know, we need our hands held through things. The easier we can make the climbing system and the safety bits and everything else, the more attention people can make towards tree work, tree cutting, work positioning, yada, yada. When you're thinking about all these weird-ass hitches that you don't need, it's just taking so much memory space from what you could be putting into moving into the future.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we should start from, is them three hitches. They're easy to look at and go, that's right. You can look at a photograph and go, oh, yeah, look, them two things are exactly the same.
Yeah.
I was showing people the picture of the Blakes and they couldn't tie it. They're looking at it. It was in black and white. It was so, you saw it. It was so simple and they couldn't tie it, even looking at pictures.
Like this, and then you go like this. No.
Like kids can tie them other hitches. We shouldn't be calling them advanced hitches either. We should be calling them normal hitches.
Yeah,
That's
it seems silly to even those hitches that you spoke about, and that setup is just the basic setup, isn't it? Really,
absolutely.
Just because you're adding a micro pulley in or a hitch climber pulley in or whatever, it doesn't make it an advanced. It's pretty much the basic tree climbing setup
but a fully closed system where there is a cross rather than a braid. I think that's where the differentiation is. So with a VT, dependent on how much, like you could get the perfect pairing for millimeters of host rope to millimeters of hitch cord, right? And then you get a bit of glazing or whatever, and then the VT doesn't react exactly the right way, or you twist a VT one way, or you twist it the other way, and it behaves differently. So that being, in my opinion, where the differentiation is, because if you have a fully crossed system like a distal Michigan or a Canute or Swabish, then there's a junction where that's actually meeting with the micro pulley. How many people have had VT with the leg actually peel over the side of the hitch climber pulley, and then it acts in a different way, right? If you're not an experienced climber, because what is the immediate action when you start to free fall, right?
Just grab tightly. Yeah.
So what do you grab a hold of?
Yeah, the hitch.
So unless you're in a...
Not while I'm one end of the saw, I don't.
So, I think that's where the differentiation needs to be, because you need to have enough exposure. You need to have enough nous about you to...
But this is on to the education, though, right?
Yeah,
If you've not wasted all that time learning the old school stuff... I don't mean to be bashing on, but...
Flogging a dead horse.
Yeah, it sounds that way, but if you're not wasting so much time and so much brain power learning stuff that you're not going to use in the future, then you're going to spend all that time focusing on the VT, the distal, whatever, and you're going to have that down to a T, aren't you? Because then you're going to be able to spend more time going... if you fold it up and it doesn't set and it falls over your pulley or whatever, you're going to learn these things. Whereas if you spent so much time learning a hitch that you don't need, then this thing's all new again. You're starting again on your hitch system and your climbing system. We should just get rid of that, and then you're focusing on these new hitches.
That's exactly
new hitches.
That's exactly what I believe the current argument is people are wasting time.
But really, how long have we got until we're all on mechanicals?
But But I think it's the getting organizations to change is a long process, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Certainly the education system, because it's proved, it's tried, it's tested. Yeah. This is how we've always done it.
Yeah, and we're sending all these people out who by the end of the course, they can climb a tree, and it doesn't matter how many shoulders we rip out. That kind of stuff. But the longer I'm in this industry, especially in these last, I'd say 4 years, all my effort in thinking about climbing and choosing what climbing systems I'm going to be using, everything I do now is all about how to be the most efficient I can be at climbing, because I've got to a point where I feel like I'm competent, that I can do most, if not any jobs that I'm faced with, unless it's something completely left field that I've never done before. But I feel like I'm competent enough that I can do the jobs that I'm faced with. And so now it's honing my climbing skill into being the most efficient and the lowest impact on my body, because we've all been doing this job a while now, and when I'm sure it's the same for all of us. When we first started out, you would have heard that same old thing, you'll only climb until your mid-30s, blah blah blah. And now it's got to a point where I'm in my mid-30s and I'm like, no, with all the evolution of the industry, it's kind of given to me on a plate that if I'm cognizant of what I'm doing and how I'm going to climb, I can climb for as long as I want to.
This is the really, really beautiful thing. And it kind of throws out the window the layover opinion of like you have to be this build, you have to be this person. So how many name drops are we up to now? Is anybody like
I'm counting.
Keep telling?
Go on.
So like huge respect to Dan Kraus. Like honestly, like I thought that was an absolutely phenomenal win at the PNW, and like rooting for him all the way. Like spoke to him at the very beginning of the competition. It's like, so what's going on, man? Like, and from 2 years ago when he was like, I'm 50. Like, this is the year. This is the year I'm back in it. This is the year I'm back in the internationals, and like focused. Like, you look at him, you couldn't break his gaze, right? This year he's like, hey, Tiger Man, how's it going, man? Like, just mega chill, being super dad, being a business owner, just being like awesome Dan Kraus, right? And then the look on his face when they announced the Masters, like I wish someone had captured that. He looked like someone had kicked him in the balls or something. It was hilarious. He's just like, oh shit. He's just like finished telling me about how he was up on this like romantic getaway with his wife. It's the first time we've been away without the kids, and then now he's gonna be like clanking around in the room and like getting ready for the Masters. And like knocked it out of the park. Like that was the best climb, hands down, on the Masters climb day. Hands down. It was a beautiful approach. It was how any intelligent, safe-minded Arb would have approached that climb. And it was the knockout. And like, again, another Arb with exceptional skills who's in his early 50s.
Yeah.
Smashed a whole bunch of people in their early 20s, 30s that have been doing this for ages. And just goes to show, like, he probably has a list as long as your arm of, like, how many aches and pains he's got. What's his excuse?
The thing about the kids that are going to get into this nowadays, because some kids are going to get into this and start SRT, and that's how they're going to go. They're not even going to swap back to DRT, are they? They're not going to try it. Look at your good lady. She runs up that rope without an issue. She's up there. She's 50 foot up in the tree without a thought. You know, she could do it for how long without hurting herself or doing anything?
What's the problem with
Well,
SRT,
to be honest,
though?
she is shaking with fear. But
No doubt. No doubt.
that's a side note.
But with all these advancements and all these new gadgets and toys, we can make this such an easy job that you can enjoy. And there's no more kind of humping and grunting.
Single rope has its own shortfalls, though, because you are on a one-to-one system. You are putting a lot of extra strain on your joints.
Well, that's why it's got senders there. Come on, get into the shinies, man.
Yeah, but you're limb
Stop
walking
trying to be
and you're
3-to-1.
If you're doing a 3-to-1 every time, then that's great. But if you're in a production setting where you've got to limb walk quickly and get here, there, everywhere, you end up putting you end up climbing the tree, taking the slack off the rope, and then where does all that tension go? It goes straight onto your wrists, go straight into your
Climb
elbows.
the tree properly. Set a redirect. Work in columns.
Again, that wherever possible, I 100% agree with you, and being intelligent and mapping your routes, but then production setting, making money. This is what part of the reason why we're all here doing it is to make money. But I 100% agree with you, being as intelligent as you can, but I have a pre-existing arthritic problem, but my wrists have definitely gone downhill massively in the last 10 years from SRS climbing.
You're trying to the
Really?
wrong dude, pal.
Huge. Well, you've only got one, so.
Yeah, true. But yeah, SRS has just got SRS. I'm calling it SRT. Has just got to be so much. God, I hate that. It's just got to be so much easier on everything. It's the way that you use it, though, isn't it? Like going back in from a limb walk. Yeah, there is that option. Jump, take a swing. People think you're a hero.
Yeah.
It looks good. And then go down.
It's
do
fun.
it again. Yeah, absolutely. Enjoy yourself. That's why we do this job. But just getting back to you there, where you were saying that in the production setting. The production setting shouldn't be, let's get this done as fast as possible, because that's when danger creeps in, right? Then we've stopped thinking about where a rope is or where the saw is or whatever it is. Safety is always the number one. So do it a little bit slower.
So let's backpedal a little bit. So the concept of my company, Devine Arboricultural Solutions, is not to to go into that place. I want to do things properly. I want to do things by the book. So that's not what we're about at all. And I think a big part of the reason why I've taken that mentality, not only from training background and everything, is because of my pre-existing injuries and because of my experiences in the past. So I don't want to give people the illusion that like this is what we're smash and bash. But there does come a point where money is money, time is time, but jobs should be bid in such a way where they allow you to do the job in the safest, most sensible way, not in the fastest, ball blistering manner that you can do it. So, yeah.
And I'm sure many people listening to this have worked for a company that they've felt like, that they're being told what to do, how hard to do it. This has got to be done by this time. Just get up there, do it, whatever it takes, all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm sure pretty much anybody in the tree industry has been there. If you've not worked for somebody like that, then you're a very lucky person. Because I mean, I'm sure the industry is shifting a little bit and shifting mentalities a little bit, but there's always going to be, no matter how much the mentality shifts within the industry, there's always going to be that personality that's just like, oh God, just get on with it. Stop wasting time. Stop messing about. But as you just kind of touched on then, Tiger, like you and I have both recently started our own businesses, and it gives you a totally different kind of perspective on how much time you want on a job, how much time you think a job will take, and then allowing for maybe all the things that you kind of don't take into consideration if you're just an employee. So then you, and through pricing work from when I first started my own business to now, which is like a year and a half or something, like my prices have slowly creeped up to a point where I'm comfortable because I know that price, the client is going to get the best job from me. Like time isn't going to be an issue because I know that I've priced the job well enough that I can take all the time that job requires. And fair enough, you get the odd job wrong here or there, or some equipment like goes awry. But if you take that approach to the way that you price work, and because you want to give the clients the best possible service, then it's gonna create this good cycle of keeping those clients for like referrals and everything, because for whatever reason they choose you. Maybe they choose you because of price, but maybe they choose you because you're very personable. Maybe they choose you for one of many reasons. But once they get a good quality service and they don't think, oh, he seems to be rushing to get out of here, he doesn't want to wait to talk to me after the job's finished, because it seems like he's got something else he's got to go to, or like people don't really.
All of my clients.
Yeah. But like, if you think about it, if you get like a tradesman round at your house, most of the time you don't watch them work for hours. You kind of greet them.
Do that?
You get the curtain twitchers that love to like peer out the window, but most of them, they greet you in the morning, say, do you want a cup of tea or whatever. They'll see you when you're having lunch, and then you'll see them when you've finished. And it's those interactions that are important, as well as obviously the job being done well and tidy. But they're not like critiquing you on how you climb, because they don't have a clue.
Yeah.
But they like that, they like you to be personable and give them good information, and they feel like they've got a good service. And that's how I feel you create like a good, strong name for your business, and that's how you can eventually be able to charge the price that you feel is worthy of your time and is what an arborist should be paid. Because I'm sure we're all of the same opinion that arborists we're not paid as much as what we should be paid if you compare it to other jobs, and if you compare to how hard our job is physically and could name loads of reasons. But so if you have your own company and you can create that credible name for yourself, it just makes the job more enjoyable to go to. Like, because we're both owner operators, so we actually go out, do the work.
He does the work.
Oh, well, Marten does the work for you. Yes, you've turned into one of those bosses already. The laser
on the
pointer.
centre, just pointing at stuff. Yeah, left
Marten,
a bit, right a bit.
Stop listening to that podcast. Get back to work.
Just cut where that green dot is there.
Oh, don't say that. Google's laser pointer.
Yeah, I mean that's a really broad subject, but it's a really good one, and it brings back to when you're talking about effort, and I think that's where everybody should be striving for, in terms of everybody has a decent education. Like we have a system set up, and in BC currently the education system is sort of stumbling to get started, but it's trying to get started. And I think that apprenticeship-based programs and like good training colleges to allow people to have hands-on experience, to have like written experience, to have like reading, learning, and like everything all in one is going to lead to a lot of better arborists in the future, and that need to focus on how efficient they are rather than, like just cutting corners. You know what I mean? Like you touched base on this a little bit earlier before, like with Joe, your wife, right? Like everybody wants to get home safe, right? But then something that's not talked about a whole bunch is like, what do you do when you're at home if you're absolutely bagged for 5 days a week of tree climbing or humping logs or like whatever else, right? Like it's nice to go home and have enough energy to play with my daughters, you know what I mean? So it's nice to go home and have enough energy to go for a walk with my partner. Sorry, Megan, we haven't been for a walk in a while. But it's these little things, like if you use techniques, if you use your education, if you use equipment to your benefit, then you can really enjoy other facets of your life and you can pursue other things. It is a job, and it is most of our passions. If you've listened this far in, it's clearly a passion. Thinking about what you're going to do after hours is really important. Spending time with loved ones and sort of like paying respect to that is really important. So I think that's where we should all really be striving, is like what we're doing after hours.
Hurry up and finish this tree work so I can go home and splice.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. And then get on social media and tell everybody how they're doing it wrong.
Yeah, or add some more of this recycling.
He's off.
So is there any specific topics, equipment, things that have happened that you want to bring up?
Oh, dude.
Any good things, any bad things, any accidents, any
so many
stupid people that you've seen doing stupid things? Give us some gold. Come on.
Oh, dude, I know what you're talking about. Oh, that was brutal. That's still too fresh.
I don't know what you're talking about here.
Do you not?
No.
Oh no, fuck. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
2 weekends ago. 2 weekends ago. Long pause. You met him once.
Oh,
an accident, something went wrong.
Yeah. Are you ready to talk about that now?
No.
Okay.
No, because I'll definitely get myself in trouble. Let's go back to gear, because I really love gear. I'm a gear whore. Zigzag, the new chicane.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Yes.
There's just not a lot of anything online about that. Have you seen it? Did you play with it?
Seen it at the conference, on the Petzl stand.
So, I got given it. Well, I didn't get given it. Dave.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, Petzl, the Petzl rep there, I went and just opened my mouth and just shouted at him for a while and told him what I thought about it and how disgusting it looks and everything else. And then after, 3 or 4 minutes of me just shouting at him, he kind of took a breath and we introduced ourselves. But he let me have a play around with it, and then he kind of gave it to me because I said, can I go and put it on a proper rope and have a play, back in the New Green store. So I went and had a play with that thing, and I haven't heard anybody else say anything good about it online yet. But so I guess I'll be the first. That thing slipped up and down the rope like butter. Oh, it was so nice. I will give it that it looks like a dog's dick. It's horrible, but it was as a piece of equipment, it was so smooth. All of its operation, opening it and putting the rope in, was super quick. Now, I'm an uber Kevin Bingham fanboy. I love everything that he's made. But when it comes to the wrench, I think that chicane's going to be the new thing. I think it's going to be the same as the zigzag. You know how it's taken 7 years for people to come around and be like, all right, I'll give it a go. Maybe it's not that bad. I think the chicane's going to be the same thing. I think once you realise how quick on and off it is, how smooth it is, how small it is, and then that stupid-looking handle, how helpful that's going to be to pull yourself up. And I think the chicane's going to be the next big thing. Oh, sure. After we've all spent the next 7 years calling it a dog's dick.
Do you think...
For all hate mail, direct...
yeah. Marten Penrose at hate mail.
Isn't it just...
Do you think there's going to be a resistance from the people within the industry to buy it because it's like the big boys against the guy who was the innovator and came up with the idea and realized there's a way that you can work on a single line and ascend and then descend in the flick of a bit of gear,
same thing.
Do you think just the backstory and the history of where the rope wrench was developed and who developed it and the idea where it came from, and do you think all of that holds so much weight that it will keep kind of Petzl at bay and keep their product not doing as well as you describe, as you think?
Definitely, absolutely, because there's going to be the purists out there that are like, no way, it's all about the wrench. Everything's about the wrench. Yeah, they're not even going to have a go on the chicane because it's all about the wrench. I got a wrench, I love it. It's all right. I love it on my zigzag. But that chicane's going to be the tits. And I think when people finally come around to having a go on it, they're going to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to call it good just yet.
There was a purists that were sticking to the Blake's hitch when the VT came around. I ain't trying no French person.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still people online now that are just trying to zigzag or whatever for the first time and going, why didn't I do this before? Oh, come on, dude. But there's so many people that just are not going to see that chicane. They're not going to touch it. They're not going to see it for years.
It's weird.
It's just not in their circles.
I feel like I have that personality where I won't try things for certain reasons, like not just in the tree industry, but I don't know. I can't even think of an example. But if something is given, if something has, if I get a bad vibe from something or something about a product that for whatever reason holds me back from trying it, I have that personality that I won't just open my arms to everything and be like, I want to try everything.
Talking about superstition?
No, not superstition.
No, so okay, sorry again for interrupting. I have a nasty habit of doing it, but I think it's also another trait of tree climbers as well. There is a certain natural feeling of paranoia and superstition and all this sort of stuff. It's something that a lot of people can't explain, right? And I think it's an intuition, and it's something that I think that people need to listen to. Because often it saves your neck. It's something that we can't fully explain. You get the hairs rise up on the back of your neck. You get lots of stories of people saying, "Ooh, I just didn't feel right today. The tree, the weather, everything just didn't feel right." And then that evening, the tree falls apart or whatever. And that's an extreme situation, obviously. But I think that human intuition and or as it's less commonly, instinct or superstition is something that we really need to pay more respect to. And I think the big boy swinging dicks sort of really steer everyone away from that. You know what I mean? Which is like, stop being a pussy, stop doing this. And it's a big part of the reason why I'm an advocate for women in our industry, because like in every other area in our lives, they typically know better than what we do. They have a stronger sense of intuition. They have a stronger sense of grace and elegance that can bring so much to anything that they touch, right? And I think that them being in the industry opens up so many different corridors, right? And I think that okay, I've gone down another corridor here. But I think that we as a moral of the story, we need to really keep in touch with who we are and understand our parameters and really listen to our intuition. So.
Yeah, completely feel the same, that you need to understand your parameters, and going on from that, understand your knowledge and skill level as well when it comes to going back to like talking about equipment and me, or kind of feeling like I have this weird thing, like I don't want to go and test certain bits of equipment for certain reasons or whatever.
So is this like you don't want to try a husky saw because it's a husky? Or
yeah, that's
still saw. First name, man. That's always one people shit on, right? People don't shit on still straight off, they shit on husky first, right?
Yeah, that kind of
I work for a guy that's only got huskies, and I work for New Green Store, which is a husky dealer.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
And right? Kong always stand out in my mind. I don't want to climb on anything Kong, because one time somebody got a Kong ring, and it was an actual mistake, and it was a shower curtain, and it snapped in a competition. Yeah. That was enough to say, I'm not interested in whatever you've got to make.
But I think it's so important to actually try as much gear as you can within the industry. So being one of those people that I was saying, I think I have the personality where, or I don't know if personality is the right word, but I have the thing where, you know, if certain gear for whatever reason puts me off, whatever walk of life it is, I feel like, I'll stick to this because I know this best. But in arboriculture, I feel like as a climber, just as anybody, you should try and get your hands on as much equipment as possible, test as much equipment as possible, see what works for you. Let's take let's take the Bluetooth headsets, for example.
Can we take two
examples?
Yeah.
We'll take as many examples as you want.
Can we take it like a VHS and a beta version?
We throw out as many different bits of gear as you like. Yeah. But there's still, you know, so many people that haven't tried Bluetooth headsets yet, and it's just such a game changer. And I'm like, man, all it takes is one conversation on a Bluetooth headset to a guy in a tree, or if you're in a tree to a guy on the ground, for you to realize that you don't want to ever do a tree job without it, no matter how big or small the job is. And
isn't it just?
Yeah, but it's just people getting round to trying the bit of gear, like, because maybe you think, I've got to go and buy it, and I don't know what it's like, and I haven't tested it. But if you were to test your mate's bit of gear, and you'd be like, oh my god, this is amazing, and it's the same. So,
absolutely. I mean, that's where you need somebody to tell you, right?
Yeah.
And help you out with these things. Because if you went and bought the cheapest Bluetooth headset...
Here we go.
Well, no. It's the same with anything, isn't it? If you were like, right, I'm going to try these Bluetooth headsets. So you buy the cheapest one possible, because it's going to give you an idea of what it's like. And you try it, and it crackles, it doesn't connect. You stood in front of a bush, so you've lost reception, whatever it is. And I tried that, it's shit, I'm not going back to it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go and put on like a decent set and you have a go, and, you know, somebody's there to tell you like, this one's better for this situation, or, you know, the way you do this is better. All of a sudden you've tried something that works for you, and you're like, holy shit, that's revolutionary. That's changed everything.
Yeah.
You know,
or
the fact that
the highest model you can get.
There's a story here I'm sensing.
We just bought some new centers.
Yeah. So
did one bite the dust already?
No, I won't accept anything but this one. Okay.
Searching through. Went, why would you buy the shit one? Why, you know, we're calling the nearly the best the shit one. So you just went, 30Ks. That's brand new. That's the most money. That's the best. We'll have it.
And
they're so beautiful.
And they are brilliant. I've used center headsets on a couple of occasions. Dan actually was really nice to lend us a set, and we got him back. We got him back in one piece this time.
Yeah, he did.
So Marten just constantly like, let's do this. So I finally pulled the trigger, and then like it's.
Well, it just
I
makes so
can't
much
believe
sense,
I didn't do it
doesn't it?
earlier. I mean, they are the most expensive models that you can get, but they are worth every dime.
Yeah.
Every dime.
Yeah.
And now I'm listening to, BBC One on the radio or like whatever talk shows on.
So that's an interesting bit too, right? Because I've had a center for a while, but the company I was working for before, nobody else had one. So it was just that I could listen to the radio. And previous to that, going back for however many years, I had inside my helmet, I had one of them little iPod Nanos, are they? The tiny one with the clip.
Oh, yeah.
And it just went into some motorbike headphones that were all sat inside the helmet. It's not Bluetooth, it was just an iPod. I'd listen to podcasts all day long. But even with my earphones on, I can still have a conversation with somebody because I can still hear them. One of the previous companies that I worked for, he just was not into it, just did not make sense. Absolutely do not listen to music at work. And you kind of, man, you're killing everything. This just isn't working. Whereas if everybody else is on the same page and you're trying them out. So, sorry, getting back, I was the only one with the center. So I'm listening to music all day long. I'm still having this conversation. But there's still a number of people out there that are like, that's just dangerous. Too dangerous in the tree.
Well, I think there needs to be clarification on that. And like if you're shearing or if you're like, cleaning up or whatever, I don't see the harm in listening to music. If you're in a complex rigging situation or someone's in the tree or whatever, I think that, potentially listening to music at that point is inappropriate. But it's all about what the action is, you know what I mean? And again, I'm relatively new to the game, and I'm not 100% on the functionality of what can tap in, tap out, and like voice commands and all this. It's like I'm now unfortunately slipping into the old school realm. But it's. I think there's appropriateness for everything, and I think that it actually makes arboriculture much more safe than what it hinders it. And I think it's definitely the VHS of any sort of introductory item. So,
Do you listen to music when you climb?
No. I listen to when I'm on my own. I listen to podcasts. Yeah, when I'm
music podcasts.
Yeah.
Something in the background.
Yeah. When I've never done it when I've been working with somebody though. No. I just I don't know why. Just because I suppose if I'm working with somebody, they've got the other headset and we're in communication. So if the job is a small printing job, I'll probably be doing it on my own anyway. So I'll be listening to a podcast then. But no, I never listened to anything if somebody else is working with me. But usually that's because they've got a headset on as well. So we're
having a chat. Yeah.
Just
we were chewing the fat massive the other day, and it was exhausting to me at the end of the day.
But yeah, do you know what I find? Like, no matter how big or small your job is, I end up like I had Joel working for me a while back, and we always use the headsets, and we just spend the day having a catch up because we've got the headset on. So if we're climbing, if we're whatever we're doing, we're always like in communication. So we're just like having a chat, and 95% of what we're talking about is not like work stuff. It's not like work commands like, I want to rig this bit off. That's like 5% of the chat, and then the rest of the time is just like having a catch up. So it almost relaxes you and makes the job enjoyable and go quicker because you're just chatting anyway. And then when you need to, say something important, or you need equipment from your bag or anything like that, it's just so easy to not have to be screaming at the top of your lungs.
We had a young DJ on the three-way conversation the other day, and it was a total shit show. It was hilarious. So this is DJ Newstater. He's the son of Dwayne and Nancy Newstater of Arboriculture Canada, and he's currently studying urban forestry. And I'm lucky enough to call him not only a friend but a co-teacher. And he comes out on job sites with us sometimes to fool around and help out. And he's a invaluable resource. And but these two, Marten and DJ, when they get going, it's like a bickering pair of sisters. It's like, oh, it's my scrunchie. Oh no, it's my scrunchie. So just like I'm in the tree, like, you know, it's a busted up eastern white pine, and watch this space. Joel from Intree Media took some shots and some video of that day, so that'll be showing up on the interwebs in the next couple of weeks. And I'm trying to concentrate and like limb walking on these hazard beam cracked limbs that have twisted around and bent down. These two are like, no, that's shit. No. Like, that's a crap idea. Like, why would you talk about doing something like this? And I love the banter between the two of them. And like, you know, DJ's Canadian, he's not English, but like he seems to have like impeccable English banter.
He's on point.
He is like, it's pretty incredible actually. But the two of them like are two great minds of arboriculture. And I feel really lucky every time that I'm around the two of them, because I feel like I'm on the verge of something. Like there's great ideas being thrown around, like those, you know, Greek philosophers like talking about this and talking about that. You know, it's on a lesser level, on a arboricultural level. But I feel like there's some really big ideas with a lot of weight being thrown around. But it's just hilarious because it always brings back to like the bickering. No, your idea is shit. No, your idea is shit. And it's like, either way, like both of the ideas are actually pretty incredible. They just like to poo-poo each other.
But getting back, the centers, man, they're phenomenal for just getting the day done, right?
Yeah.
I've always had music or a podcast in it. And my days fly by.
Yeah.
And when you go back to being a kid and we've all skateboarded, BMX, mountain bikes, whatever, how many times you do that without music? Never, because it makes it better. You watch a skate video, you put on some thrash music, it makes it better. It's not that you do it faster, so you do it in time to the music, it's smoother, you whatever. Now go and climb a tree and listen to some music that you like, and all of a sudden, you're in a movie. Everything you're doing, every way you're moving, it's like dynamic to the music, right? It just feels smoother.
Horses for courses.
The day gets past.
I like peace.
Oh, screw that.
I like inner peace, and it's like a big part of the reason why I like tree climbing is because I'm alone. No one's there. Like I'm the master of my own destiny, and there's like nothing but the sky ahead of me, and then that's my peace.
Oh man!
And then I come back down, and the rest of the world is really loud, and there's traffic, and there's cars, and there's people, like there's clients, like and there's Marten.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like the peace is nice, but it's interesting because I do like talk show like radio, and I do like listening to podcasts, and I do like listening to music. I'm
a certain amount of what we do, though, you need to stop thinking about it so much. Because when you're on the, all right, what about this? And if I do this, it's going to do something else. And what about if? When you've got the music on, you've got something else in your head, you're like, oh, I need that to go there. And it's gone, right? Because you're not over-analysing things. You've got something else going on. Everything's just kind of just
Do you find that, like,
smoother.
Do you find on those days that you really enjoy, like the good days, you almost just get in this like flow where everything's going right?
Every day with him, every day.
Yeah.
It's like having a joke to Will from New Green, who is one of my best friends now, and we share a child together. I joked about it. It's like. Man, I just wish I could clone someone. And what I actually realized that what I had wished that I had asked for is someone like Marten, because if I cloned myself, then I get someone that is exactly the same as me, that is deficient in the same areas and strong in the same areas. And I find that Marten and I are paired so perfectly. His salesmanship with clients is like far exceeds. Like I can't talk to clients for crap. If you annoy me for like 2 minutes, I am going to tell you to fuck right off. And Marten will like entertain anybody. Like it'll be a neo-Nazi with like, you know, whatever. And he'll like talk to them about, you know, like going to paint your nails or something. You know, it's it's a great pairing. And every day I feel as though it's on point. It's a great communication. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So I never wanted to clone myself. I just needed a Marten. That's all.
I think that's what everyone needs. Man, I can only imagine that's brutal. I have the music in my headphones, so I don't have to listen to myself think about everything. We're on Sinners, and you have to listen to me talk.
Yeah.
Oh, lucky pal. Yeah, not so good, eh?
Tiger, is there anything that you wanted to chuck in the mix? Any specific topics you want to talk about, or gear you want to talk about, or business ideas, or...
So
Maybe you want to tell everyone how much you like the rope runner now.
oh god.
Or the ecstatic rope.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we got a couple of points, and I'm going to rapid fire them so that I'm not waffling on, because I realize that I've waffled a fair bit.
That's what these podcasts are all about. You can
waffle.
Yeah, you can just,
Mate,
it's
at this
just
point-
it's just a chat, long conversation that you would hardly ever have with anybody else, because you don't sit down for 2 hours to chat about tree stuff. Whereas this is what the whole point of the podcast is. So don't feel like you're waffling.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
At this
Sweet.
point in the
that's what
podcast,
we're
if
sat here
anyone's still
for.
listening, they're tree geeks
So that's,
like
that's,
us.
the,
Yeah.
that's the green light. That's the thumbs up right there. Everybody heard it, right? So a couple of points to touch base on what you're talking about intuition-wise. I really find myself in the same category. And there's a lot of like high-thinking minds within the industry that are exactly the same way, that tend to employ other people that are less so that they can really see the evolution of particular pieces of equipment and see how they work, and then really understand them fully, have them tried, tested, and stamped before like they go out into market and before they use them. I think it's a really smart move. And I think the intuition is something that you got to listen to, but then also like trying and testing things in a controlled environment is something that's really important, right? And listening to those sort of people, like there is the Kevin Binghams of the world, and like a guy is amazing, absolutely amazing what he's accomplished in against all odds as well, in like an economic downturn with like riding a bicycle from site to site, you know, and the rickshawing like equipment and like branches backwards and forwards. Like the dude is incredible. Lucky enough to crush some beers with him, and there needs to be people like that. But then you need the rough with the smooth. You need the Stoics and you need the Epicureans. That's like the way that the world works, right? So I think if you're trying to push yourself one way or the other way, then you're not being true to yourself, and then you're gonna have a bad time, right? So I think in that sort of situation, to relate that to my immediate situation, I feel as though that Marten and I, again, touching base on that, is a really good pairing. And I have been sort of standoffish with the rope runner. I used it once and then I took it off. It was just for an ascent. It was Ryan Kafiki. If you're listening, Ryan, sorry. He lent me his rope runner, and I think it was the first run, and I did an ascent on the island in a big leaf maple. Really, really beautiful ascent. And then I was trying to take it off so I could send it down because I didn't really understand the concept, and I dropped the whole thing out of the tree. Luckily, 2 points. It was in old growth area, and it was a huge amount of duff, so it landed in a big pillow.
Does Ryan know that you dropped it?
Yeah, he saw me drop it.
He does now.
He saw me drop it. He's also not a drop test believer, and went on to tell me about some drop test results from LCAP. He's the big time rock climber and all-time awesome dude. Anyway, so I had tried it that one time, and immediately I was like, okay, not trying this again. Marten comes along. Go try it, man. Go try it. You go try it. You go try it. I'm good try it. And I'm a hitchhiker guy. If anyone knows me, I'm a hitchhiker guy because it's bomb-proof. It does its thing same every day, and I invented a hitch with my good buddy Thomas, and that's been basically me for the last 5 years. The hitch with the hitch climber, hitchhiker, sorry. And he's like, get the runner. And my wrists are hurting, so like any resistance is a bit of a thing. So I tried the rope runner, like, oh, this is smooth. Oh, actually, descending is actually fairly intuitive. Like, I can feel it. I can put my thumb in the gap between there, and I can tilt it. This is actually nice. The ecstatic, I wanted to hate it because you can't knot it for shit, but it's actually a really nice climbing rope. I'm an HTP boy all the way, and ecstatic. Pretty fucking good.
Have you climbed on the ecstatic?
No.
It's lovely.
The rope runner?
No. Up what?
Have you had to go on the rope runner?
I'd have gone yours.
Oh,
but
yeah.
for
Of course
a second.
you did.
Yeah.
So, mate, it's lovely.
Yeah, but yeah, that's like I was saying about maybe equipment that I have that just haven't gone out and seeked to climb on. Maybe people will find that quite strange that I haven't really climbed on the rope runner, but yeah, I don't know why.
Because it's a lot of fucking money.
Well, no, that's
It's loads of money to lay down on something that you might not like because you do know you like a hitch.
But I know enough people with them that I could try it. But even the desire to go out and try it for it, like, it's ridiculous because what I just said is like, go and try as much gear as you can because then you know what you like. And so
Marten's sitting here resting on his laurels like, that's rap, motherfuckers. Centers, rope runners, what's going to be the next thing?
But when you're into something, like I'm into gear, you find the good from the bad, right?
Yeah.
And I like to shit on everything. Even if I really like something, I like to find the bad about it and shit on it. And I'll tell anybody that comes into the store, I'll tell them what's bad about it before I let them buy it.
Yeah.
The rope runner isn't perfect. By any stretch, it's not perfect. But it is amazing.
Yeah.
So I'll push that on anybody because if I can use it and it's easy, or if I can climb easier on it, then you guys with two hands are going to have a whale of a time.
So I got to say from the get-go, that's bullshit. And let's touch base and rewind from before when we started and talk a little bit about. This is actually a pretty nice segue to my next point. So this is kind of inadvertent. So we were talking a little bit about a project that Marten and I were involved in. Was it midsummer? When was it? July? August?
It was a bit a while ago.
This is July, August. So DJ Newstead that I mentioned just before had met a friend of his in university, is also studying urban forestry, and this individual named John has a very rare condition called Lesch-Nyhan syndrome, and that basically is a neurological impairment, and it leads him to have involuntary spasms, and DJ is if you know DJ, he's a very energetic individual and very passionate and very loving and very inspired. I think he's got a very old head. Both Marten and I both agree that he's ahead of his time, and you sometimes forget that he's 21, 22, and we both love him to death. And he struck up this friendship with John. He's like, "Oh, John, so when are we going to get you in a treat?" And John's strapped to a wheelchair permanently. He's about the same age. He has his arms and his legs strapped to the side so that he doesn't self-harm. He doesn't like punch himself in the face or like cause any other bodily harm. And John's like, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. And
He's also very limited in words.
Yeah.
His speech isn't like this. He's very limited. So his big words are hell yeah.
Yeah.
Everything. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
So DJ is like working overtime, and he comes to me and he says, "I got this buddy John. He wants to climb a tree." I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." He's like, "There's a bit of a problem though. was like, oh, what's that? And he's like, oh, he's bound to a wheelchair. It's like, oh, I said, well, there's lots of people that have climbed trees in wheelchairs before. He's like, no, John's not quite like that. He has to be strapped to the wheelchair so he doesn't harm himself. I was like, oh, that's different. And at the time, I'd been sort of looking into biophilia, the connection with nature, and sort of in-tree therapy, and having a deeper connection with nature in a way that is inexplicable, right? And I also always want to get people involved in tree climbing, involved in sort of aerial activities, like show them what I love, like both of you do, right? So it's like, well, let's do it. Let's get it on its way. And so we spent a couple of months like figuring out how we're going to do it, and we got him in a tree, and it was pretty freaking amazing. And Dan helped us out with some center headsets, and we.
To be fair though, because over the radio or MP3, you'll just say, think tree. This was 100 and what?
So yeah, so
this is a big stick.
The fur itself was, I believe, from the measurements we took, was about 136 foot, and it is on the foreshore of the Rose Gardens in UBC. So it overlooks the inlet, very, very beautiful scenic area, and we're still yet to confirm, but John may have broken a record by the highest ascent in the shortest amount of time for a differently abled individual.
That's wicked.
So he did 100 foot in under 2 minutes. So
let's talk a bit about the climb itself. What obstacles did you have, and then how did you overcome those obstacles? What was the thought process behind the way that you were going to get him in the tree, and how you were going to kind of manage him going up the tree, and once he's at the top, and all that kind of stuff?
Holy smokes, like where do you start?
A guy that can't walk or crawl going 100 and something foot in the air on a rope. We got this. So once you've pushed out your DRT and your SRT and you go, that ain't going to work. Was it you that stepped in with Ronan?
Yeah. Well, actually, so first of all, like, there's two things that attracted me. Number one being like compassion for John and wanting to share my love of trees with him, and for him to see through my eyes what I see on a daily basis, and for him to see that, even if it's just once, right? And then the second thing is like, how the hell do I make this happen? Like, how is that? And that just really, really excited me. So I reached out to my buddy Drew straight away, Drew Bristow, and I said, what do you think? What do you think about this concept? Is this like something that's like doable? And he's like, yeah, man. Like, I think if you put all the right pieces together, I think you can make it work. And we had a bit of banter backwards and forwards. Drew called me an asshole. Like, I called him a dickhead, something like this. As the conversation normally progresses. And anyway, so he gave me some contacts with Yale. And then we met up with Adam Moser from Yale Cordage, the Arborist representative, who happened to be in town, like visiting stores at the same time, which was like serendipity in a way. But he turned up, he talked to us about his ropes, and we went out, had a few drinks. He said, hey, there's these guys out of Cali that have this battery-powered ascender. You should give them a shot. And called Bryant from Ronan Lifts and said, hey, man, like, this is what we're doing. He's like, yeah, man, like, we want to help you out the best way that we can. We're going to get you a unit. We want you to, like, try that unit, tell us how it goes, experiment with it. We've tested under these circumstances, and then just sponsors lined up left, right, and center, like Dark Art Splicing did all of our splicing. Thank you very much, Marten. New Green store, like, provided some harnesses and some ropes. We had Yale Cordage supply some ropes. We had Ronan with the batch powder sender. I coordinated from Devine Arboricultural Solutions, coordinated a lot of the technical side of things and put some money in for sponsorship. UBC, obviously, Dan with the headsets. We had lots and lots of sponsorship, and hopefully we can reach some more people. But it was like, how do we do this? Especially like, how do we get somebody that's moving so much? And luckily we had Arb Canada. Also, I have totally forgotten about them. Sorry, guys. Who have an extensive collection of harnesses of all different shapes and sizes. And DJ went home to Olds, to the headquarters, and found this particular harness. It's a Petzl rescue harness. And we managed to fit, because John's actually quite a small individual. He's hasn't grown at the same rate as everybody else. So his waist size is tiny, tiny, tiny. We found that we could fit him in a harness that was built for DJ and his brother when they were children. And this rescue harness together, fashioned together some hitch cordage to balance him out and support his neck, using an aeroplane pillow to keep him in a sort of relaxed L shape. After much experimentation, DJ in and out of there, I was in and out of there, John was in and out of there. Just to get John out of a wheelchair was like an experiment. We used his harnesses numerous different ways before that didn't work, and trying to get him in a tree where he didn't hit any branches on the way if he moved, redirections, trying to get Joel to be able to film him in the tree from in-tree media, like in good spots without him being in the shot. It was like trying to have two systems set up so that if one failed, then John was going to be fine, because we don't want to get sued from a guy in a wheelchair chopping out of a tree. It was an absolute minefield, but it was fantastic. And everything like comes down to me. Like, we went out for a meal afterwards, and John was like as white as a sheet, like after the experience, because he'd been up so high and
quite an adrenaline dump.
It was something that, well, obviously it's something he'd never experienced before, but it must have been a feeling that he'd never experienced before as well, because for somebody who's probably a few months before never even thought that was a possibility that would ever happen, to then having this come true and experiencing it all within a day, and like trying to like kind of process all that and take it all in, it must have been pretty like mentally draining, as well as like an adrenaline dump, and as well as like, just all those like emotions all to come together at once. It must have been exhausting.
Well, yeah, because like the all of us, it was a tough process, because there was a lot of stress behind it, and this was DJ's like child, like what his concept, and it's so pure, and it's like it's so wholesome, right? And we were sitting there, we were having some drinks with like his family, and his mother is an angel. John's mother is like, she's beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and love her to bits. She's a wonderful woman, and she's just sitting there like grinning ear to ear, and like was very obviously scared for him and worryful and everything, but just there was such a beautiful like family thing, and now because of DJ's like leap of faith, so to speak, we might have the opportunity to like make other people's dreams like a reality, and we want to like sort of commemorate the whole thing by calling it John's Climb. So the other day I was saying to the guys, DJ and Marten, and this is how it all ties back in. This is how all the waffling ties back in. It's like, John's kind of the patron saint of differently abled tree climbers. And Marten was like, excuse me?
Dude climbs a tree one time and he becomes the patron saint. Fuck off. Get out. Yeah, bless him. But he was amazing, though. He really did. Love that. Hey,
it was
that
very
was something
cool.
to watch. The amount of time that was put into rigging that tree up to get him up that tree.
Yeah.
As Tiger said, it was, 2 minutes?
Yeah.
To put him 100 foot in the air. And then he got moved over and put into a tree hammock. So he sat 100 and something foot in this tree hammock, just loving life.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wicked.
And then picked him back up and took him back down to the ground. You're like, what was it, like 5 minutes, 6 minutes in total from going all the way up, sitting in the hammock and come back down? There you go. How much time was put into rigging this tree and the thought process into putting everything everywhere just to get one dude to go zroop?
So I added it up, and I could. My math is not my strongest point, but I believe that Joel and Mark did 150 hours of editing,
Was it?
and then DJ and I probably from concept to actual fruition, including Thomas Rousseau, who was my first aide in technical advisement. To add up the hours, we're probably in the vicinity of like 500 man hours of like actual design conception to finished product. It was awesome. It was awesome.
It took how long to de-rig the tree?
About 20 seconds. Because we had 20 tree climbers in there. Yeah.
So that's all video.
And there is a video.
Yep.
Documentary.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's fully posh as well.
Do you?
It's fully posh.
It's not just like one of us idiots running around with a phone camera.
Yeah. So
do you have a plan for it, or is it going to be available for people to watch anywhere, or what's...
So basically at the moment we have a release date of November 19th, or is it November 20th? And at that point it will be readily available to share worldwide. Watch this space, check out Climbing Arborist. I'm sure if Dan feels like picking it up, he can share that with you lovely folk.
I spoke to DJ at the conference briefly about it, and I said that I'd be really keen to actually have it on my website but obviously it's his video, so I want him to do what he wants to do with it, but the option was there for if you wanted to put it on my website. And
totally. So the concept behind this is sharing, basically. We want to stay true to the concept of John's Climb, which is making a young man's dream come true. And we're really hoping that throughout the exposure of this film, we can make other young men and young women's dreams come true. And that's really where we're at. And we're looking for corporate sponsorship. We're looking for both monetary and equipment sponsorship to make these people's dreams come true, right? And the next individual that we are already sizing up for the next installment of John's Climb has a very different setup to what John has. So it's not going to be a continuous theme, and it'll be touching on many people's lives from many different walks of life, and the main concept being is in-tree therapy, or just tree therapy, being out in nature, biophilia, connection with nature, and how that can positively affect people. So, yeah.
I've got just a point on that, actually, of biophilia or just tree therapy and that kind of stuff. Have you both climbed a tree bare feet?
No.
I tried once and I cut myself pretty good.
I really hate climbing trees without my chainsaw pants and boots on.
Yeah.
If I'm wreck climbing, I still put my pants and boots on.
Yeah, because it adds that little protection,
trainers.
you mean? When it gets like nice weather again, maybe spring, summertime, whatever, go out for a wreck climb, find a nice tree somewhere, just take your boots off. Once you're in the canopy, take your boots off and just kind of walk around on the branches and climb around. And it's like, it's weird. It's like You wouldn't expect it, but there's definitely a feeling there. Like it's
I suppose you
it's
probably
strange.
wouldn't walk barefoot on wood on an actual branch very often, would you?
So
No,
I
but
did
there's a proper
Barkless
there's
wood.
like a proper connection. Like I don't know if
Really?
it's the sensory nerves in your feet or it's just nature and grounding and like the whole like electromagnetic pulse from the earth or what. I don't know. But somebody told me to try it once. I'd never tried it, never even thought about it. And someone's like, "Oh, just take your boots off when you get to the top," and just. And I was like, "All right," and I did it, and I was like, "There's something about it." So give it a whirl.
So
And you did it again, or you did it once? Well, yeah, that was pretty good. That was really good.
Yeah, I've done it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not something that I do like every weekend. But yeah.
I did it the one
Tree
time.
freak.
I did it the one time climbing a tree in Tasmania. It's the tallest tree in Tasmania, and it was with the late Scott Sharp and Brett Hamlin and a couple of other mates, Mark Stetton, Joe Little, a couple of other great guys. And so we got up there, and Brett immediately took his shoes off and set up a bed sheet because it was like pre-times of like
Pre-hammock.
pre-hammock times.
Yeah.
It was a time, people, when there was no tree hammocks, or they weren't available in Australia, and very exposed, like eucalyptus regnans. So like it's a stovepipe with basically an apicormic canopy, like maybe 5 or 6 like scaffolding limbs. So it was 50 meters to the first branch, just like this big stovepipe. So we're up there, and it's like mega exposed. And Brett has been Queensland and Australian climbing champion like 4 or 5 times, and I think he's come 2nd or 3rd in the world a couple of times. Really interesting cat, and up there, just like really getting in touch with the tree and everything. And I was at an age where I was like, who is this hippie? Like, what's he up to? It's like, oh, I'll take my shoes off. I'll see what this is all about. I'm up for new experiences. So I went on a limb walk, and then because anybody that knows regnans or eucalypts for that matter, they tend to be a little bit dusty, particularly a little bit slippery if it's a little bit rainy. I slipped onto a nice little sharp stub. Cut my foot, and that was enough of the romance of barefoot climbing for me.
Yeah, that ruined it for you.
Yeah,
it's a weird one because like a few years ago, I would have been of the opinion it's kind of like hippie kind of stuff, but like I have changed my mental. Just my outlook on life has changed, and
oh, don't get me wrong, I think it's brilliant. My name's Tiger, for Christ's sake. I'm definitely a hippie.
But I know, I think there's there's definitely something there. So give it a try and let me know what you think.
Yeah, I'll do it again, just for you.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, it might be the next Instagram post, eh?
Yeah.
For climbing
Check out
out.
these little piggies.
Yeah. I wonder what the caption will say about that.
Mate, my feet live inside a pair of Airstreams. I think they're pretty disgusting when I take my socks off. I don't know if I want to share that with the world, eh? They've lived in steel toe cap boots for years now.
I'm surprised with you, Tiger, because you're Australian, and Australians
Do everything barefoot.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, well, that's the weird
You
thing.
love
Yeah.
like Australians in general. I've noticed love being barefoot because they're just typically walking around the beach
issue-
and stuff all the time.
The issue being though, and like a lot of people maybe from like the South States might sort of identify with this. Is like in hot weather, you've got like boots in normally like woolly socks or like sort of workwear socks. So you get a level of like sweat, and then you end up getting really supple feet. So unless you're like walking around constantly on like jagged bricks or like asphalt or rocks or whatever, then your feet go into like soft and supple. So it's like it increases in the hot weather. I don't know how to explain it. So like I would typically have, Mendels or like work boots and then walk around barefoot or flip flops, but sometimes it's hard. Like, your feet are just like little baby feet.
Too English, aren't we? There's just like there's too much dog shit on the floor to go around barefoot. It just wouldn't do it.
Oh, my buddy Luke and I rolled up in England in 2010 or 11 or whatever it was now, and we went down to the shops on the first day, jet lagged, barefoot, to go and get like some chips or something.
And taking needles at your feet.
People were staring at us like it was in. I can't even remember where it was now, but people were staring at us like, what the fuck are these guys doing?
yeah, not right back then at all.
Yeah.
So I keep thinking about things to say, and then I forget about them because we get caught up in conversations about all sorts.
Old waffle iron over here.
And on that, I've forgotten what I was going to say as well. Okay. They'll come back.
Do you want me to bring something else up while you're...
Yeah, go for it. I don't think. I'll come back to that.
So I've just got a new battery-powered...
Hey,
That's what I was going to say. I was about to hit you with battery. Oh, shit. Great minds.
All right. I'll be back soon.
Man.
I saw that posted today. I was like, "Oh, you cheeky monkey!"
That is,
and then I was thinking back to him when I was saying, because I've squashed Husqvarna for a lot of years. I just shit, the orange saws. Now I kind of like them, especially that battery one.
Yeah,
that
the
thing's
whole
amazing.
man, the whole battery range is. I still can't wrap my head around the fact that I'm using battery-powered chainsaws at work and being productive, and it's in a commercial environment. It's it's a professional grade saw, and so I just got the I don't know what you call it, like the power pole pruner
battery stick.
Yeah, whatever the slang term you want to use is, but that thing is amazing. It's got a 10-inch bar on it. It uses the same batteries as the climbing chainsaw that I have, battery powered. So you can use like I have the 200, whatever it is, the 200 battery for the climbing saw, but then you can use like the 200 or the 300, which has more battery life. And I don't know if it puts more power output, but anyway, I used the power pole pruner the other day for the first time, and it's so light, and with a chainsaw pole pruner, you don't need like bags of power, because you just prune in 4-5 inch branches, and
yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, that's probably about as big as you want to do with.
Yeah, you're not really going to be making like 8, 9, 10 inch limbs, and you could do, but you're never going to get the majority of the time. You're going to be doing 2 to 5 inch branches, and that thing has all the power you need. One of my biggest things that I keep banging on about is no vibration, which is a huge thing to me. Having used power tools in the industry for 16 years, and for the first 15 of them without a battery powered saw, and then starting to use the battery product range, realizing hardly any sound, although I do still wear my earmuffs because I just can't I can't stand the whizzing noise. It's still quite high pitched. On the pole saw, it actually says that the dBH 72. So if you want to look at the ins and outs of it, the stat is that I think somewhere around 80, 82 that you have to wear ear protection. I suppose that's because the chain is actually already well away from you. But
I think a bit of the problem is that it's metal on metal. Well, it's lubricated, it's metal on metal. So like a dog whistle, you can't hear it, but that thing's going to mess you up a little bit, right? Yeah. So the same with that battery chainsaw. It's the metal on metal that you're not going to hear, but it's just a high pitch that's just hitting.
But then you don't have none of the engine noise, none of the engine vibration. It's just they're just a pleasure to work with.
As far as the battery goes, when you don't have to do this in a tree, you go, you fucking car.
Marten, you want to share with everybody?
Oh, dude. Yeah, I bumped it again. I got this Popeye elbow. Did you see that? The bursitis has gone down now. But I bang it once on a tree, oh, you bugger. And then you do it again, and it just exploded, and it got massive. It was so big and disgusting. Well, I couldn't, but people could poke it and play with it.
Little ball sack elbow.
Yeah, isn't it? But getting rid of that in the tree is amazing. So just obviously one hand is a hard thing to start a saw, right?
And it's something tiny that if you heard people talking about, oh, what's the benefits? Tell me the benefits of a battery powered saw. And if somebody said, oh, you don't have to pull start it. Yeah. Like if you're listening to that, you think, oh, God, it's just a sales pitch. Yeah. But when you realize how many times you do that in a day, especially for like the chainsaw you use in the tree, like, and to just have to like press with your thumb, and you're like, man, that is actually a huge bonus to having a tool that you don't have to like pull start all the time. And then what I've also found is that, say on all tools, but on a tool that you often leave idling, either your climbing saw or even the blower. If you're blowing and then you put it down and leave it like bouncing along the walkway for 5 minutes while you do something else, like if you use the battery blower, there's no that's just there is no problem there. There's
all these new saws and everything in the Husky range, certainly. I'm sure there's still as well, but you can plug them all into the computer, right? So like our mechanic Rob, he plugs everything into the laptop, and he'll tell you how many times you started it, how much time it's spent on idle, how much time it's spent at high revs. Can tell you everything about this saw. Everything.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that.
Did you not?
So no. So
he'll tell you everything. So his T540's been started 1,700 times.
That's a lot of that, isn't it?
That's a lot of pulling. That's a lot of action. Well, and that doesn't count how many times it didn't start. How many times you've overpulled?
That's actually saying how many actually
well,
fired.
I don't know how many times, whether it said it's fired that many times or whether it's been pulled that many times. I'm not too
Remember,
sure.
we're trying to sell Husqvarnas here, right?
Oh, yeah. The same would happen for a still. But the computer will tell you everything. And what Rob was saying is that pretty much every machine, I think he said, was like 60% of the time, it's on tick over. That's so much money's worth of gas that's just going to nowhere. Or the saw sitting on concrete.
Don't bang the table.
Beg pardon.
You'll pick that up on the microphone.
Yeah, or all the other bits and pieces that when you hook it back onto your little carry tool and it's just sat there ticking over, it's just wasting everything, isn't it? Yeah. Whereas the battery has none of that. Yeah. It's just zip, put it away.
If I may interject too, there's been a little bit of chatter recently, and I suppose for a little bit of time about now that we're moving into the rainy season, those of us in the northern hemisphere. Especially in BC,
rain
and how do battery powered items stack up with rain, for instance, right? And so there was the initial issue of the first series that was launched of the top plate where the thumb
the
pad,
on off button,
basically, right, being sort of somewhat slightly faulty. Now it is, I've just sort of confirmed this with Rob, the New Green mechanic, that it is virtually plug and play, and it is not, 100 meters water resistant, but, if you were out working on a reasonable wet day, it should not affect it.
Well, so you can get a replacement switch or something you use.
If you've got one of the Gen 1 batteries, then after a time it's going to go wrong and they'll replace the switch.
Yeah.
But how do you know if you've got one with
work in the rain?
Yeah.
I know, but so like me, I haven't used mine in the rain yet, but
yours is good.
Is mine good?
Yours is good.
So the biggest tip that the biggest tip that Rob had was the battery terminals. Can use a little bit of dielectric grease from time to time, just to ensure that connection is good. But if you do have Gen 1, you will more than likely have issues with the thumb pad. And don't at any point in time, like some individuals that Rob's told us about, decide that you're going to take the saw apart yourself because it's not a gas-powered saw. It doesn't have a carburetor.
Yeah, there's nothing in there for you to touch.
No, there's nothing. It's not for you.
Give it back to Husky.
A couple of wires. That's what you can say.
Give it back to Husqvarna and or a reputable dealer and get them sorted out. If it's a Gen 1, then it's replaceable under warranty. The thumb pad, etc., etc. So just talk to.
So battery tools wise, what have you got?
At the moment, just the power pole pruner saw and the climbing saw, but I am going to get a blower and a hedge trimmer. and pretty much whatever else they make, because I am sold, man. They are the business.
The hedge trimmer is the bee's knees.
So the hedge trimmer was the one that I had some reservation about, purely because I thought all the other tools you're just gonna use the power a little bit. Like you use a climbing saw, you prune a branch here, you prune a branch there, and if you start, taking small trees down, the battery you can get through the battery, in a decent amount of time.
Yeah.
So I thought a hedge trimmer, whenever you're hedge trimming, you're pretty much like full bore all the time. And so I think I might have asked Rob about it, and he was like, no, like honestly, the hedge trimmers are the business.
Brilliant.
And the main reason I wanted a hedge trimmer is because that is the one that really gets you with the vibrations.
The
really
wrists,
gets you.
man. The wrists.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Oh.
So you guys both used.
I haven't used the battery hedge trimmer yet.
Lucky enough to do a trial run with the articulating head battery one, and I'm not familiar with all the models, but it was it's not a short handheld one, it's like the extended one, right? And I did 2 laurel hedges back to back, basically with the throttle, wide open throttle the whole time, and I still had 1 bar at the end of it. So
wow.
Like all sides, both of them, the hedge, like West Coasters or other areas with hedges will understand that one time when you have to stand on one foot and then reach over like this and balance with the other foot
on top of a 16-foot ladder.
That all of a sudden becomes a little bit easier with the battery-powered, lightweight, non-vibrational tool, and it's lovely because Dan touched on it before. Like it's got that annoying buzzing noise, but as soon as you put down your ear defenders, and it's lovely. It's peaceful. It's quiet. It's nice.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's just so much less weight to haul around all day long. We're gonna get one. It's happening.
Do you know what?
We're going to fully buy into it too, because that back handle saw for next to the chipper, that's going to be the
early morning starts. Early morning starts.
Goodness, isn't it?
I had one early morning start the other day. It was one of the conference days. I'd booked on the Wednesday. I'd booked a job in on the morning, and that was before I decided to go to the conference. And then I booked the conference, and I was like, "Oh, I've got a job. I booked in for the morning." And I was like, well, I reckon I could knock it out in, a few hours. And I was like, well, I got the battery saw, so I could actually go and start early, not annoy anybody. So I went and started at like 7 o'clock.
Was it?
And I was just like buzzing away. Nobody knew I was there, just whipping off branches. And I was like, this is just another bonus to having the saw. But
we spent the whole day the other day when we had Joel out, and I was in the tree with the battery-powered saw. And Spencer didn't even know we were there until the client didn't even know we were there until halfway through the day. He looked out the window like, "Holy shit, half the tree's gone."
The saws are so good.
I've had
so good.
I had one of my clients being like, "Man, you are the quietest arborist I've ever seen or heard, or not heard."
Silent but deadly, yeah.
It's like this. It just adds like a bunch more advantages to having a saw that makes no noise, because the amount of times where you're doing a job where everything's above board, everything's legit, but you may be working in an area that you're going to get people are going to complain. You're always going to be pissing somebody off.
Yeah.
Like everybody has their own opinion about, and trees they're such a touchy subject. So to have a saw that makes no noise and half the people will never know that you're even there until you're gone, kind of thing. Like that's just another benefit to having a battery powered saw rather than, and then to the exact opposite to that, I have a saw that's pretty much the same size, same weight, but it's a gas saw and it's been modified and it's the loud as stink, and it's it's brilliant for what I got it for, but now I've got the battery.
The
Walkerized one. It's so loud. It's brilliant, so loud. I haven't used it since. I don't think I've used it since I got the battery saw, which is like, I don't know. Do you know when that was? Like.
Oh, when you did the Australia line thing. When was that?
The open day for Negri,
that open day, yeah.
So early summer?
Yeah.
I don't know.
June, maybe.
June, yeah.
Maybe before that.
Could be. Actually, no, it was still rainy, so it must have been spring. Must have been spring.
Yeah. And with that power pruner as well, it has this handle on the back. And when I first got it, I was like, what's that handle for? And then I was using it the other day, and I just instinctively grabbed the handle when I was at full reach. Because you know how if you're on a long hedge trimmer or whatever, you grab the body to get that extra, 8 inches where you're reaching out.
Yeah?
I'm pointing at Marten. Yeah.
Marten uses his ball sack, apparently, which you'll move into.
But yeah, I just grabbed that handle and I was like, oh, that's what it's for. And because I hadn't even thought about why it was put there, and I just grabbed it and I was like, brilliant. Why has no other company ever put a handle on the back of a long trimmer before? But maybe it's because the engine's there and it posed a challenge to put it. Pardon?
Don't all telescopic tools have a little handle in the back?
Some of them do. So the
other companies still have got a pouch you can put them into, right?
The HT series has a rear handled black thing on it, but I'm not entirely sure the answer to that question.
How much of a tree before the battery saw? How much of a tree would you rip down with a silky? Would you use a chainsaw for everything and remove it? I'm a big time silky user, and I would run around a tree with a silky before I even pull the chainsaw up.
I'm a big time silky user, but it depends on the situation, really. I suppose depends on the tree type situation, the position that I could get myself in. If it was easier to do it with a chainsaw, I don't know, so many variables. So
the majority of trees, I would absolutely be ripping down my silky because it's quicker, it's easier, it's lighter, it's not bulky, it's attached to my leg, it's ready to go. Now the battery saw, I look at it like a power silky.
Yeah,
you can't really call it like a chainsaw because we were sticking it into the wood, and you put it into any sort of wood, and you're like, yeah, look at my battery go, and then the battery lights start counting down because it's like, oh, I'm not that big. So it's like a power silky. Anything you can go through with a silky, that's what it's for. Kind of that's where I see that saw as, because then once you're getting into wood, that's about gas.
I mean, depends what kind of wood size you're talking about, really. Because I just love it. I love everything about the saw so much that its benefits are so up there for me that I'll
defend it to the grave.
But I'll use it until I feel like it's then becoming inefficient to use it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I'm exactly the same way. And it's the first time that it was ever introduced to me, and I really, really wanted to hate it, even though I love all Husqvarna products, is on Salt Spring with my good buddy Scott Noley. So we have 6, 7, 8, 9. We're at 8, 9 name drops now. And it's during fire season, right? So sparks are a big thing. And tree removal was not exactly conducive to non-spark environment, right? So, but beauty of electric saw is you don't have a spark plug, right? So you can bring a lot of trees down to a standing pole that you can come back at a later stage and fell, right? So you can still stage remove a lot of things. So Scott actually has two electric top handles where he does a lot of pruning and removing with the top handled electric saws, and he'll go down to 10, 12, 14 inches, take a top out, everything down to 10, 12, 14 inches of a stem before it's filled when the fire ban is lifted with the bigger saws. And I was really skeptical. And we went out on a block together, and it was a development site. It's a whole bunch of furs to get done, and it was just him on one side, me on the other side, and it was freaking lovely. It was super nice. You're carrying around less weight, it's less noisy. It's just it's a whole different experience. And sure, it's not as fast cutting as the 200. But it's not as obnoxious.
Yeah, but it's not supposed to be a replacement for.
It's not supposed to be.
It isn't.
Exactly.
Is it?
You can't compare it. It's not the same tool.
And it's Yeah. It's not even worth arguing with somebody who tries to compare it, really. It's like you have to see it as a tool for a certain job, and like everything else in arboriculture, like if we were to talk about silkies, there's so many different shapes and sizes that they make, because if you want to go and spend the money and you're really into pruning and you want to use the right saw for the right type of pruning job, with it, if it's a Japanese maple and you're doing like really small fine pruning cuts, or you're using it to, like Marten said, rip out
pruning or whatever,
rip out branches on a removal, and like really just get it's about the speed and the size it'll go through. And there's like so many different tools for the job, and the battery power saw slots in perfectly into a gap that like I say, I've got a 150 that is walkerized that had loads of power, and I don't use that anymore because I have the battery saw. And yeah, it's awesome.
How many silkies have you got?
How many different types? I've got what's the one that I got recently? Suguri. I've got that. I've got the big yellow one. Sugoi. I got the Zubat. And I got Gomboy. Yeah, so 4.
How many chainsaws you got?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So we all have this massive collection of saws, all of everything. But we go, but it's about simplistic. It's about keeping your gear to a minimal. We go back an hour and a half ago. And it's all about keeping it as lightweight as possible and just as little as possible. I've got 6 of them and I've got 10 silkies. It's crazy how we collect these things. We go, well, that's not really gear, eh?
But the
silkies, man, I am addicted.
But the saws,
I want all of them.
But the saws I have, they've all got they've each got a job.
So every bit of gear in that tree shop.
Exactly.
And you need it all. Come on in, talk to me. I'll talk to you all the shiny stuff. I'm hammering a point there, but yeah, it's all about having everything for a different job, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just because you've got one climbing system doesn't mean you can't have 2
and
or 3
you don't take everything to every job, because you know that you're only going to use like a small amount of
that's
your equipment.
tenure though. That's tenure. Like when you have experience and you have education and you have like a broader understanding. Like I have a very comprehensive amount of equipment, and Marten will attest. And like what he sees is probably only half of what I actually have, because the rest of it's in a container in Australia.
It's in the bedroom where you fondle.
Yeah, well, you're one to talk about fondling. But like you don't take everything up the tree at once. Like you got a coniferous removal where you're going up and down. You might only want to take 3 of the 6 silkies that you have. Like I'm joking, but like that you pick the tools for the job. I think it's really important that you know how to use all the tools in your arsenal. You don't have to use them every day. You don't have to have them hanging off your harness. It doesn't have to be additional weight. You need to practice in a safe environment where you can use all that tools, but you don't need to use them or have them hung off you every day.
Now, we're waffling shit quite a lot, but
I think
we probably need to wrap it up.
I was going to say,
upload this.
Yeah.
It's going to be a massive file otherwise. But it will keep people entertained for most of their workday.
That's it. You've got a Bluetooth center, you can listen to it, can't you, while you work?
It'd probably take all day to listen to this one.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you boys joining me and hearing your thoughts and opinions and perspectives, and that was awesome.
Oh, thanks very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
It was a good chat. Good. I don't even know how long that was.
2.5, 2 3/4.
Yeah, it's good going.
Tree guys waffling shit.
All right, thanks again. We'll let you boys get home to bed.
Nice. Okay, can I drop 2 things first?
Yeah.
That I slightly remember. Okay, so I do work for New Green's store, and I'm building their website at the moment. And I keep on saying things to people so that they keep me on track and get me to do things. So I'm working and playing with the website. So if everyone could play around with that website, have a look at it, get back to me and tell me what's good and bad about it. But on that website, what I'm going to start doing is putting up rec climbs. So anybody in the area will be able to come and have a look at that. If you're interested in climbing trees, get onto the website, give me a shout and come out. I can provide you with a kit, I can teach you, and we can make little groups and we can get up in the trees. On the rec climbing thing, I'm also building a club called the Queen's of Cambium, where it's just about ladies getting into trees. It's not about working, they're not there for chainsaws, it's about just enjoying it in, I hate the words, but safe space. It's just ladies together. So there's a little collection of ladies that are already on board, and they're amazing. They're so good. So yeah, I absolutely love anybody else that wants to come along and play, to come along and play. And then shortly after,
What's the website?
Oh, that'll be newgreenstore.com. And in a short time from now, we're planning on having our own little podcast going from there. We have the slight bonus of being a tree shop, so all the new latest and greatest shiny gadgets and shit will be lying on the table to play with. That I'd like to make interactive. So anyone can shout into the shop, to the email, to me, whatever, if they want to see something, play something, understand something. I absolutely love gear, and I want to talk about it all day, every day. So if you want to know about
Trust me,
it,
that's true.
yeah, shout me, talk to me. There is no pressure. I don't need to sell you anything. Just come and ask me how it works. I'll tell you.
Have you got an email address
Oh, absolutely. Shout me on darkartsplicing.com. Darkartsplicing@gmail.com. Or newgreenstore.com will have all the information on there. If it's not moving fast enough, then tell me off. I'll keep up with it.
Nice. And I spoke to you briefly about a podcast you were thinking about doing, and I'm excited to listen, man. It sounds like it's going to be a...
Just got to get all the ducks in line, right? I don't
knowing your enthusiasm for gear and your sense of humor and stuff, it's going to be entertaining.
I'm hoping so. There's quite a few people that say they want to be part of it. So hopefully it's something good. So maybe it'll be special for people in their centres at work.
Nice, nice. All right, cheers, fellas. We'll wrap it up.
Thank you, Dan.
Nice one, man.
Thank you.